Hello, I'm your host, Aged Boomer. I don't know where Troy or Netter are, but hopefully they'll be along shortly. How is everybody tonight? It's always awkward talking to myself. Let's say hi to Big Al while I wait for hopefully Troy and Netter to show up. Hopefully everything's okay. Have a great stream tonight, my friends. Thank you, Big Al. Geek Flag, what's up, my fellow old farts? Not much. We were on Troy and I and Netter and I were all on Pop's channel earlier. If you know Pop's on Pop Culture, his channel. We were talking about Star Wars memories, so you may want to check that out. And let's see, Depensac, welcome. Deleted Scenes, welcome. And let's see what else is going on. JPRPH1, welcome. So let's see. Oh, well, thank you, FKHC 2005, otherwise known as Tim. Well, thank you so much. Troy will appreciate that. Do you guys need to drink your prune juice? Yeah, well, I've never actually had prune juice, but as Troy would say, it is a warrior's drink in the Klingon Empire, right? by as far as Klingons are concerned. But welcome, Curtis Selby. Let's see here. Welcome, the Horror King. Oh yeah, this is broadcasting on Netter of Netter's network. Hope they didn't mind me going live, but I figure we might also just go live. Hopefully they will be here shortly. Depends, Zach. I think I already said hi to you, but hi again. And let's keep going down the list. Let's see. Curtis Selby, welcome. I think some of you are coming over from Deleted Scenes Unscripted, where he was talking about some of the younglings out there, huh? So that was interesting. All right, here we go. So how's everyone doing tonight? I'm sure they'll show up at some point. Probably 5 minutes before the end of the stream. Anyway, I guess we can go live with the good old days. It doesn't help if Troy's not here, though. I like to banter off of him. But we'll see what we can do. All right, the presentation. Let's see if I know what I'm doing. Look at that. I'm a one-man show tonight. Geeky Geezers. This is tonight's Geeky Geezers. Oh, and I didn't put the Geeky Geezer symbol on here. Oh, well, hello. You okay?
Yeah, I am so sorry.
It's okay.
Oh gosh,
Are you and Netter okay? That was what I was worried about.
Yes, we're
okay?
fine. Okay. We just stupid boomer. I know you're boomer, and
I'll go back into greetings. I'm figuring this out. I'm doing it all by myself.
Well, I'm very, very proud of you. That's actually what I was thinking as I was coming in. I'm like, well, you know what? He's got to learn how to do this himself.
I was a few minutes late, but no, I figured out. You start the broadcast and then you just click on the scenes to the left side, and that brings up like the intro and the greeting and everything else. So I figured it out.
Well, I should have had it. I should have had it set so that after the intro, it should have gone right into the greeting. And then from the greeting, you got to go into presentation. But congratulations, Under Fire. You did it.
Yes, I did. Anyway, but is Netter okay?
Netter's fine. She'll be here in just a moment.
That's fine. Take your time. But I was just about to get into the good old days. I was just saying hi to the chat. Are both late, huh? Netter and Troy sitting in a tree. Well, you never know.
Kinda. Yeah, no, I totally forgot that everything else throughout the week at night starts at 9 Central, but Geeky Geezers is an hour earlier. So that's where I went wrong.
That's okay. Yes, man. You're on Eastern, the Eastern Standard Time, the only relevant time as far as I'm concerned. But
I may have to start trying to get my head straight on that. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
What? Eastern Standard is the time zone of New York City. I know, your Chicago time zone. I know, but anyway. Anyway, I was just going to get us into the good old days, if you want to go ahead and start. And this one's a bit of a frightener, I think, right?
Yes, it absolutely
If
is.
we go forward, this is
There it is.
House.
Yeah, it's that doctor show with the British guy who puts on an American accent, walks with a limp, right?
No, it's a haunted house movie, not to be confused with a Japanese haunted house movie, also titled House, that I also recommend. It's another great, brilliant comedic movie. But this is the
I
American
did not
House.
even know about it.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Like that might be another topic for another stream. This movie. It was the director used every trick in the book, every camera trick he could possibly use is in that movie. It's all about
Wow.
a bunch of schoolgirls to go to they visit this one girl's strange like great aunt's house, and spooky shenanigans ensue, and it's just ridiculous. For instance, a piano eats one of the girls. That happens in one scene.
Uh,
Like the
so
legs are sticking out, and the thing's going down on her as it eats her.
you mean like supernatural possessed type objects type
Ghosts,
thing?
ghosts.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Or
Okay.
maybe you're right. I forgot in Japan that's a thing. Objects becoming possessed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But anyway, this is the American
And
House.
is there a car that gets possessed or anything like that? I just had
There's
to ask.
not a car as far as I know. There's a guy that's in a car that gets, I guess, smothered by bunches of bananas in one scene, I think. It's weird. It's a weird movie. This is
I might
also a weird
check
movie.
this out. This really does sound weird.
They actually have it on Turner Classic Movies every Halloween. That even though they usually do like American or British, they throw in this Japanese house movie because it's just so bizarre. It's from the
Okay.
1970s.
Oh,
But anyway,
that makes it even better.
yeah, it's you can see what Japan was like in the 70s. But I prefer House 2, but I found both of them to be fun. I like House 2 as well. People rag on that one, but I thought it was funny. More science fiction-y, I think, than House 1. It's more like to deal with timey-wimey stuff, right, as I recall. But I
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
kind of does. Yeah.
And you get a hello, love of my life from Netter. Welcome. Agent
Yes.
Boomer, I pictured a piano falling, crushing the poor girl. No, the piano just eats her.
Yeah.
It's funny because all the high school girls, they have different personalities, and one of the high school girls' name is Kung Fu. So Kung Fu knows how to, and she, you know what she can do? She can do Kung Fu. She can beat things up. So when the spirits or whatever start messing around with them, she uses her Kung Fu on the spirits and knocks them back. It's so bizarre. It's like
Oh
usually
my
in these
god.
types of movies, like the girls go running, but she just. It's almost like the
She
the
stands in
mummy
the
or whatever
back.
was
Yeah.
attacking her didn't expect that to happen. It didn't expect her to like jump kick it or something. It's
Oh, you're
anyway.
actually making this sound interesting. I may have to check it out. But we're
Okay,
talking
so
about the
House.
wrong house here,
Yes,
aren't
we're talking
we?
about 1985's House from director. I'm sorry, from with actor William Catt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
also the director, I think, is the director of some of the Friday 13th films. I think directed this.
It doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
But this is House, and what's the plot? Well, there's this house, and it's haunted, and William Catt plays this. He plays a horror writer. He's basically like a Stephen King type, right? That's the impression I
Mm-hmm.
get.
Yeah.
And but he's not going to be writing any horror novel. He's going to write a memoir about his time in Vietnam. Remember that?
That's kind of horrific as it is.
Well, people got all angry when they heard it. They're like his fans are signing for the thing, and they're like, "Oh, that's great." And, yeah,
Yeah.
his name is Roger Cobb, author Roger Cobb, but he wants to write a memoir about his time in Vietnam, and he's trying to get over because his son disappeared. They don't know what happened to his son. The last time he saw his son, he could swore he saw him drowning in his aunt's swimming pool at the house, but when he jumped into the pool to save his son, he wasn't there, and they figured he's gone missing. And him and his wife kind of divorced over it, and it's because that can happen like with the death of a child or with I guess with the disappearance of this as far as this is concerned. So, but he's looking for some solitude because he inherited the estate after his aunt hangs herself, right?
Yeah.
She's just swinging around, as I
That,
recall. And he decides to go in there to work on his writing, and strange things are amiss, right?
right.
I was watching the documentary on the DVD about this, and they said that this was a R-rated children's horror movie.
Kind of. Yeah.
It,
I do kind of see it that way.
it's
It
a
is.
horror movie as a kid. You sneak and you watch it because you know you're not supposed to watch it, but it's really not that bad.
No,
Right?
it's much of it is honestly just kind of humorous. It had that kind of, there was a whole bunch of these kinds of horror films in the 80s. I would argue it had the same kind of tenor and horror level and humor as like Gremlins did.
Yes. I would link it in the same thing. The humor in it's this weird like deadpan humor. Like George Wendt, his neighbor, shows up and says, "Oh, I'm living here. Oh, well, you're much better than the last person who lived here. That old lady, she was crazy. What a bit!" Like he's saying all these things about her. He says, "Oh,
Yeah.
she was my aunt. Oh, a heart of gold, though. Really a saintly woman." And it's like, it's like he does a backtrack, and like all the slight like dead. It's like it's hard to describe the humor in this because like he'll come up and says, "Wait, you're that guy, Roger Cobb. I'm your biggest fan," and then he hands him like a novel. It's kind of falling apart because it's some paperback that's like the pages are falling out. But could you sign this? And it's like,
yeah,
and I don't know. I appreciated it because for starters, it's also one part Vietnam movie.
yeah, it kind of is. But it kind of, honestly, I gotta say though, it's so bizarre, and at the same time, it works.
Yeah.
You know?
This is interesting. In this movie, he's trying to get a picture of the ghost because he figured he's trapped this thing in a closet. He's going to try and get a picture of it. And, his neighbor, George Wendt, comes over and he's like, "Hey, why don't you help me with this?" And he says, at that point, he doesn't say it's a ghost. He says, "Oh, that's just nonsense. It's a rabid raccoon. I have, it's a joke. It's huge."
Yeah.
Because he figured the guy's not going to help him otherwise. And he actually sees the monstrosity. So it's not like it's all in his head. This guy, his neighbor, actually sees it, which I thought was kind of funny.
That actually, that's a great point because the way the story is told, at least initially, you have this feeling that it's really in William Cat. It's him. It's all around him. The disappearance of his son, and then he comes here and all this kind of stuff. And maybe it runs in the family. Maybe his aunt was crazy too.
Yes.
But then with George Wendt being next door, coming over and seeing this thing and reacting, it's like, okay, this is absolutely something outside of William Cat.
Because at first you're wondering if it's in his head, like this horrible ghoul. First, his wife shows up, is this his estranged wife, and but then she turns into this thing and then starts attacking him. So he shoots it with a shotgun. Then she falls down, and then it looks like his wife. Like, oh, whoa, is this like some kind of
like you think he just shot his wife?
Shot his wife, yeah, but that's not what happened. That's not what happens because of course she comes back as this thing later on, but. There's a funny scene where there's like it's almost like something out of Poltergeist where all the household the lawn shed tools like the clippers are attacking him, and he finally traps them in the closet. Then meanwhile this thing is coming after him and it's almost has him. I think this thing even has a gun on him, like a shotgun. Then he opens up the closet door and then all the poltergeist things come out, and instead of hitting him they hit this ghoul and they chop her head off. And it's kind of funny because it's like he was using one of the ghosts against this thing. It's the kind
of gag you would expect from a Bruce Campbell film.
It kind of has that feeling to it. Yeah, I think if you like the Evil Dead movies, you might get a kick out of this movie. A lot of fun. And of course, we do learn more about what's going on here. Like, oh, there's the hand. There's, of course, a severed hand in this one as well.
Yes.
You can't get enough horror movies with severed hands walking around, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, my favorite is still the one from Evil Dead 2, but this was a good one.
Usually the severed hand functions as a gag,
yes,
more than anything else. But I've always been of the mind that a severed hand in a zombie movie, especially, just works because as the idea that a zombie should be able to continue functioning without you cut the hand off, the hand should keep zombifying, right? So.
Yes. Well, yeah, I assume maybe, but I know in Evil Dead it was possessed. Like either he was going to become possessed or he chops off his hand. So he chops off his hand, then his hand's possessed, and then in Evil Dead 2, when he's shooting at it flips him the bird. It gives him the middle finger, which I thought was funny. I'm sorry, it's just. But anyway, of course we got some Vietnam flashbacks. I love the Vietnam flashbacks in this. because this is the 80s and everything's Vietnam. All right. We're having, Born on the 4th of July came out. We also
It
had,
really was,
just,
because you
yes,
had
yes,
a whole generation that had, of men that had served in Vietnam.
exactly. And now their stories are finally being told. Yes.
Yeah, and it was very very apropos for somebody who's just a decade older, and he had served in Vietnam, and he's got traumatic backstory and whatnot. Yeah,
And that's Richard Mall, who we know as Bull from Night Court. He's in this,
yeah,
and they do these Vietnam flashbacks, and I really appreciate the fact that these look so fake.
yes,
This is
yes
not
they
even, they're
do.
not even in the woods somewhere. This is a set. This is a
Yep,
Vietnam jungle set, and then you have like the Viet Cong pop in and out. Probably of this in the same set. They just move the brush around a bit, and there's like a wonderful line. This, all right, guys, get up. We got a war to lose.
yeah.
And I laugh at that now, but who knows? Maybe that was said back
I
then.
would not be surprised. That was very. I think a lot of guys were really very aware of the situation, and it was incredibly demoralizing.
Yeah.
But this does lend itself to the whole, and you could kind of tell in that picture right there, the foreground tree with the moss at the bottom. It's like, yeah, that's definitely part of a set, and it kind of lends itself to the whole like dream sequenciness.
That's true. You could look
You
at it
know,
like this. These are his memories. This may not be
right,
exactly what happened. Yeah, because like he's writing the memoir and he's thinking back to these scenes
right,
from his life. And I know there's a scene with where Richard Mall here, he gets shot up and like and he's like, "You got to finish me off, man." And like he gets his knife out, but he can't. Roger Cobb can't do it. He can't kill even this guy he didn't care for, and because this was one of the other army guys he didn't care for. But he's like,
right,
I can't kill you." And he's like, "No!" And then the Viet Cong capture him and drag him off, and it's like, "Oh no, I'll get you for this." And of course, we realize later on that this haunting of this house, all of it, it's actually his war friend reaching out for revenge from beyond the grave, right?
yeah,
And that's him as a zombified soldier, right?
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
things work out in the end. He gets his son back. He shoves a grenade up this guy's, I guess,
Rib
abdomen or
cage,
something.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then just sets it off. I enjoy this movie. It's not. I'm not calling it a horror masterpiece, but it's a good little yarn. It's actually a good horror movie, I think, to watch during the summer too, because it has a summertime vibe to it, as far as I'm concerned. But like you're off from school, but maybe that's just when I watched it because I would watch things on
I was
Showtime
just gonna
sometimes.
say, I got what you were saying, but then I realized it was probably because that's just when I saw it. I first saw it on cable. See, that's
I think this is one that rotated on HBO and then rotated
it
back to
did.
Showtime, probably.
I don't know if it was on both, or because I did have access to both, so I never remembered which it was. Curtis says Jeremiah Denton was one of the prisoners who spent most time in the Hanoi Hilton. Since he was in prison, he didn't know about the stupid politics. He assumed we would win, and he was baffled when he was released and found out we lost. Yeah.
Think about that. You might have got in there at the beginning of the war when it's all rah, 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 and you know nothing about what's going on back at home. And then you get out and realize that not among all Americans, but some of the public sentiment had turned and that we had lost. And it was just, oh, I didn't even think about that.
It was a very
Yikes.
strange war because I mean, some guys did get communication from back home, but you know, they were communicating with made a huge difference. If it was like a sister or a girlfriend or something that had started to get into the hippie movement and stuff like that, they could be getting a very different kind of message than they
Yes.
would from someone who was a bit more, you know, support the cause, support the
Cause,
government
yeah.
kind of concept.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about this movie, though? Ironically, he's writing this memoir about the Vietnam War, and of course, his agents like, no, they just want a good horror story. I don't want to hear about the Vietnam War anymore. But if he were to tell what actually happened, it would
Yeah.
then turn into a ghost story because of this guy kidnapping his son and sticking him in wherever the poltergeist world is or whatever. There you go.
mean,
Double bill with this and Poltergeist, maybe.
Well, and see, and that therein lies another aspect to it that I thought of when I saw this. Do you remember what the tagline was for Poltergeist?
What was the tagline?
It was, "It knows what scares you."
Yes.
And because each person saw a different manifestation based directly on their fear. The kid,
like the clown,
was afraid. The clown and the tree outside, right?
Yep.
And the television and anything related to the kids, of course, parents are concerned about. So it knows what scares you, right? And it played on that, and that ends up you see that in a lot of the supernatural stories of the era. Who else did that? Freddy Krueger. Yep. He was in your dreams. He knew what scared you. He used it against you. And House was doing the same kind of thing. So it did really kind of fall into that same kind of trope.
Well, what would terrify Roger Cobb would be the nightmare would be him shooting his own wife, because even though they were divorced, he still loved her and she still loved him. It was just the whole.
Well, and you also suspect that he was having the same doubts about himself that the audience did at that point.
And then the police show up.
Wrong with me? Yeah. Is there something wrong with me? Am I actually doing this? And how many times have we seen that in a horror movie where they're reacting to some horrific thing and then you realize in trying to fight against the supernatural thing, they've harmed a real person or whatever,
But William Katt, underrated comedic actor, because he's kind of playing the straight man in this, right? So he's not like reacting to all the weirdness, right? But he's really good. Yeah. He was actually up for he auditioned for Luke Skywalker, didn't he? As I recall.
Yes, he absolutely did. I mean, I have often said there is an alternate world where William Katt was Luke Skywalker, Kurt Russell was Han Solo, and
Tom Selleck was Indiana Jones. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yes, exactly.
And Sissy Spacek was Princess Leia.
Was Princess Leia, exactly.
I can't see Sissy Spacek as Princess Leia because Carrie came out around that time. I see her as Carrie.
That was why actually she ended up taking Carrie and interesting Carrie, and Carrie Fisher ended up taking. They were actually up for, because I think Carrie Fisher had actually auditioned for Carrie as well.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, very interesting because they came out around the same time.
Yep.
But check out House. I believe it's streaming for free on some free streaming.
Probably on Tubi. I wouldn't be surprised.
Tubi, yeah. But I was watching my Blu-ray of it earlier on the background. But actually, if y'all are not subscribed to Pops on Pop Culture, I don't know if you have that link handy. I didn't think to bring it, but you can check out a stream we did earlier with him. Troy, Nanette, and I were on him with him, and we were talking about our Star Wars memories, right?
Absolutely. And he's one of these smart guys. He's the one who gave me the idea to start giving you clips of Geeky Geezers. Well, he's probably going to be putting out clips of what we did throughout the weeks ahead as well. So definitely worth checking out. Hear from 4 people that have memories of Star Wars when it was first released, and it's a very different experience. Yes, it's old people saying back in my day, but at the same time, it is very different than someone else who came to it during.
Think how radically different the convention scene was back then when he was showing the old convention pictures. No people cosplaying yet.
And keeping in mind that this was 1977, so I was only like 6 years old at the time, right? 6-7 years old at the time. And so I never would have been to any of those conventions. I didn't, get to see those. I didn't start going to conventions until the early 80s. But I'm like, yep, I kind of get the feel of those early kinds of conventions. It was a very different scene. Again, all of the information that you got was either from magazines, if it wasn't a TV show, on the news, or you heard from a friend or whatever, you didn't know about things because there was no internet at the time.
Carrie co-starred William Catt.
That's right, he was in
I'm
it.
wondering
Wasn't
that
he?
whoever didn't get cast in Star Wars went on to Carrie. It seems that seems to be what happened.
House was, and thank you, the Horror King, for being
It
here.
was.
House was on Shudder for a while, but not sure if it's still on it. Yeah.
Yeah, Shudder gets a lot of horror movies on it. Amazon does pretty good too, especially around Halloween time, throwing a lot of things up on Prime. But yeah, I don't know. At some point, we got to do a rewatch of Amityville 2: The Possession.
It is on Tubi.
Okay.
House is on Tubi, Pluto TV, Philo, and Plex.
What the
So
heck
yeah,
is
there's a plenty of.
Philo? What's Philo?
Philo's the one that Netter gets. That
$20 a month. You don't get what do you call it? Regular channels 257-911.
Oh, I see.
But you do get cable channels.
But Philo also has a free option, so you can get movies like you can from Tubi on Philo. But you can also get some of your basic cable channels if you subscribe to them. And it's a great. Let's just put it this way: it's a great option for people that are cutting the cord, but there's some shows on cable you still want to watch.
Yeah, I think my mom has something similar because she likes to watch her news shows.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we do have some sad news tonight. Our first in remembrance, George Wendt, and of course he's best known for Cheers, but he was in other things too. But George, that's why I brought up. That's why I did House at the beginning. George Wendt, an American actor and comedian who earned 6 consecutive Emmy nominations for his performance as Norm Peterson on the beloved NBC comedy series Cheers, died Tuesday morning at his home. He was 76. Wendt's death was confirmed by his publicist, Melissa Nathan, with the following statement: George was a doting family man, a well-loved friend, and confidant to all of those lucky enough to have known him. He will be missed forever. His family has requested privacy during this time. A student of the Chicago improv landscape, Wendt was a comedian at the Second City in the 1970s before becoming I'm not surprised, actually, before becoming a television actor. After numerous guest spots, he landed the role that would come to define him, the loyal barfly Norm Peterson, whose regular first line of "Afternoon, everybody" became one of the fan-beloved motifs of the series. Standout among the cast, Wendt earned 6 Emmy nods in the supporting actor in a comedy series category through his tenure as a main cast member across the 11-season run of Cheers. He would go on to reprise the role in appearances on the short-lived spin-off The Tortellis.
Yep.
I know there were okay, and the long-running spin-off Frasier. After appearing in all 273 episodes of Cheers, Wendt jumped to CBS to lead his own sitcom, The George Wendt Show, in which he played a radio host car mechanic. The series was quickly scrapped, running for just a month. Wendt's affinity for comedy made him a regular on Saturday Night Live through the 90s, drawing on his South Side roots to join Chris Farley, Mike Myers, and Robert Smigel in the recurring mustachioed Chicago Superfans sketches. Are these the ones that say with the Bears?
That's the one where you'd see him slapping himself on the chest.
Yes.
No, that was what's his name? Chris Farley. But he did the Bears and all
course.
That shtick, yeah.
Yeah. In one particularly odd bit of SNL lore, Wendt co-hosted the 1986 episode with director Francis Ford Coppola, then preparing to release Peggy Sue Got Married. Philip Glass was the musical guest. Peggy Sue Got Married was directed by Francis Ford Coppola?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Holy, I didn't know that. Okay. After Cheers elevated Wendt, the actor had no trouble scoring supporting roles for the rest of his career, with film credits including comedies like Fletch, Gung Ho, and Spice World, along with features like the 19 horror film House and the 2019 American indie standout The Climb. I've not seen The Climb. I should check that out. But
yeah, I don't know that one either.
That's George Wendt. You will be missed. Staple of my childhood.
One thing that I'm not surprised that the article doesn't mention, because let's face it,
it might have. I truncated it. Yeah.
He it did mention though his Second City
yes,
time and whatnot, and his stage performances. He was in a play that I saw here in the early 90s. It was called Rounding Third, and it was a baseball, story. And he I mean, it was just this small. I want to say it was the Remains Theater. Was it the Remains Theater here in Chicago? I can't remember now. And it was just brilliant. And it was a what do you call it? A single scene play, so it didn't require a lot of, but it did involve him kind of. It's a mostly a two-man story, and it did involve him sometimes even stepping into the aisle. It's very much. It's not like they're up on a stage. You're very much on level with the performers, and it was
really.
It was really, really a great experience. He was wonderful. I don't feel like he ever outgrew his stage roots, which kind of makes, what he did that much better. You can kind of imagine that.
Yeah, and it was always nice seeing him pop up in things like that horror movie House. Because like when I was watching House as a kid, I'm like, oh, do I know this guy? He looks familiar. And then I didn't realize he was the greatest American hero. Oh, I know that guy. He's on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I registered it was Cheers or not, but I did recognize him. So yeah, but rest in peace. Yeah. Another death, unfortunately. This is Peter David. Legendary comic book writer, dead at 68.
Yeah, this one. Well, let's
this
get
was
into
a late one, wasn't it?
It was very, very last minute. I think we got this. I can't remember if we got this from Marc, but it was coming from all avenues. I was seeing online because,
I thought it was Al. Did Big Al send it?
Oh, maybe it was Al. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a DM from Big Al.
Okay. Yeah, Peter David, a legendary comic book writer known for his work on The Incredible Hulk, X Factor, Spider-Man, and more, has died at age 68. The news comes via his wife, who reported that he passed away during the night on May 24th, 2025, after a lengthy illness. David's first work was in prose and journalism before snagging a job in Marvel's sales department in the 1980s. There, he managed to impress editors, and his first published comic book work was in 1985's The Spectacular Spider-Man, number 103. From there, he wrote the classic The Death of Jean DeWolf storyline in The Spectacular Spider-Man before moving over to his signature work on The Incredible Hulk. David's run in the title lasted 12 years and defined the Green Goliath for an entire generation of fans, bringing depth and pathos to the Hulk in a way that hadn't been seen before. He also added signature storylines like fleshing out abuse from Bruce Banner's father, something that gave a realistic grounding to the Hulk's rage, introducing a smart Hulk and the gray Joe Fixit version of the character. Other Marvel work included X Factor and Spider-Man 2099. You're very familiar with that one, I think. Yeah,
I am.
Yeah. Before he moved over to DC Comics in the 90s, there he took on Aquaman, giving the character a hook hand. Oh, he's the one that did that. Okay.
Yep.
And bringing his humor and grounded take on the King of the Seven Seas. He also wrote Star Trek for DC while the license was there, along with Ron Mars was responsible for DC versus Marvel, as well as lauded runs on Supergirl and Teen Titans. Since then, David has written nearly every character in the DC and Marvel pantheon, as well as other comic novels and works throughout multiple publishers. Some highlights include the Dark Tower comics for Marvel, co-writing Stan Lee's autobiography, Amazing, Fantastic, Incredible, and a run on Star Trek novels, mostly focusing on the villain Q. David has suffered from various health problems since 2012 when he had a stroke, losing portions of his vision and use of his right leg and arm. Then in 2022, his wife Kathleen started a GoFundMe to help David after more strokes, kidney failure, and a general decline in health. As of May 20th, he was temporarily on a ventilator and light sedation, though he seemed to be doing better. David is the winner of the 1992 Eisner Award, a 2011 GLAAD Media Award, and 2016 Inkpot Award, among many other awards and nominations. His impact on the comic book industry and culture at large is undeniable, and he will be missed. And I think I share that sentiment here. So, yeah.
Yeah, his run in Spider-Man was one of my favorites. I believe it predated it had to have. It predated the whole Clone Saga thing. And why is that important? Because after the Clone Saga, I had already checked out. I wasn't reading Spider-Man anymore. His run on Star Trek was some of the best stories. Yes, the novels that they referred to. He
Star
did a
Trek
great
novels.
one. He did a great one called oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank. It was Q something. It was Q, just like the TV episodes were. This is one thing I want to say about him. He was someone we talk about canon and changing canon and this and that. He was somebody who, if he had an impact on the canon of a storyline, it was usually good. You yourself mentioned the whole hook hand thing for Aquaman and the rage that Banner had from abuse and so forth. Those were elements that he inserted that worked well, that were not huge changes to canon, but good and accepted by most fans. When he was dealing with something that was a licensed thing like Star Trek, he had a great way of telling stories that functioned separate and apart from canon. They were like back in the Next Generation era, any one story could stand on its own and you could accept it as canon or not. And for a comic book writer who was writing something that absolutely was non-canon because it was, separate and apart from a TV show and or movie, he had great stories that you could imagine were taking place in parallel with what you saw on the screen without affecting the canon of what happened
of the thing, because he still respected the canon.
Well, and also he had this clever way of oftentimes creating like secondary characters that became very beloved, that he could do whatever he wanted to because they didn't exist in the main canon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful era. I don't like to speak ill of the dead, and I'm not truly doing that now, but they oftentimes say you don't want to meet your heroes. And although I never actually met him personally, he did kind of start down that political road that way too many writers and celebrities and we had some things to say about him, in response to some of the things he said. But that doesn't mean that I didn't like what he did, and what he went through towards the end is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
He was completely destitute. That's why they had to do a GoFundMe.
This is why we say when writers and they come out, we always see these people. They must be super wealthy, not necessarily.
No, and especially not someone who worked in comics. You're starting to see more and more that they are not being treated by their companies the way talent should. Absolutely, and we'll probably get into this in a different respect when we start on another article talking about AI. Starting to do some of the things that it's like. They would be happy to replace all human beings with AI so they don't have to pay them. But these talents, we call them talent for a reason, because they infuse the things that people love. They have an understanding of story that I don't believe any computer is ever going to truly have.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know, man. I'm looking at that might be a topic for another night. But rest in peace, and sorry he went the way he did. But yeah. But rest in peace. I guess this brings us to our first story of the night.
And it's a great pivot point, because again we're going to start talking about companies that are just evil, right?
Okay, something. Again. You still have the Nintendo sucks as a banner on here. Listen to me. Nintendo sucks. Are Sony and Microsoft much better? I'm sorry.
I'm not saying they are. They're equally.
I would argue if Nintendo's competition were better, Nintendo would have to be better as a result. I think everybody kind of sucks right now. Oh yeah.
Before we move on, can I real quick just thank RubyHoove so much for for stopping in and dropping a gifty. RubyHoove, I hope you are doing well. I know you've been having a rough personal time lately. I hope, because Netter's been praying for you and your family. I hope you're doing well. She gifted a membership to Samuel Proctor. Welcome back to membership, Samuel. You can thank RubyHoove for that. We're so glad to have you here.
And that comes with quick, certain privileges, like a secret stream tomorrow night, if you're interested.
Like a secret, members only stream. Yeah, I may as well mention that right now, since we've got the gifty up. If you are a member, as of tomorrow, we will be doing every Monday. We do members night at the movie at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. I'll be on time this time. I will be showing the original, despecialized, Han shot only showing of Star Wars, streaming, off platform, so you can watch along with us, in honor of, Star Wars Day. And
close to 50.
But only members are going to have access. It is not the same platform that I use for Big Al and Netter and so forth when we do a rewatch. So for as little as $2 a month, $2 a month. They say for a price of coffee, but do you drink coffee once a month? No, you drink coffee every day. So for that price a month, we do some very, very special things for the guests, and you can support a channel like this. Coffee's a goofball like me who can't even be on time for a stream, for crying out loud.
Coffee's more than $2 these days, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be able to argue it's $2 a day if you make the coffee yourself.
Maybe. But, there you go.
You go out and buy it, it's going to be more than $2. You're absolutely right about that.
All right. So you want to go ahead and post the story for this?
Absolutely.
And I got to
rip
say,
on these guys.
You know something? Samsung, you suck too. There you go.
They do.
I thought you liked Samsung. Wasn't your last TV a Samsung?
Yes, it was. But our last dishwasher was also a Samsung, and it sucked. And they've been doing some things lately since certain changes in the world economics that I'm not too fired up about. So no, I'm not too happy with Samsung these days. And even though this new TV is working just great, I probably will never buy another Samsung product again.
So some things Samsung makes are better than others. True. Dishwashers, no. TVs, yes.
Yes. But again, business model. I will be buying American from now on. I never thought I would say that growing up. I do remember my grandparents always talking about buying American and why it was so important. Well, I've learned my lesson the hard way.
So Samsung's Korean. And I believe I will say this for all of you who are interested on what products are worth buying or not. You want to go check out Consumer Reports at your local public library. There you go. Okay.
That's a great plug. I'm glad you mentioned that.
We did that when we had to replace a lot of appliances after Ian. Nintendo hired Samsung to build the main chips for the Switch 2, including an 8-nanometer processor custom designed by NVIDIA, Bloomberg reported. That would mark a move by Nintendo away from TSMC, which manufactured the chipset for the original 2017 Switch. Nintendo had no comment, saying it doesn't disclose its suppliers. Samsung and NVIDIA also declined to discuss the matter. What is NVIDIA? Are they American?
No, I don't believe they are. However, I hear that they are going to start making chips in the United States now.
Okay. I know for the N64, I believe Nintendo worked with IBM on the design of it. And I believe they had a deal going with Silicon Graphics, but then Silicon Graphics pulled out to help design the graphics for the system. They were not happy about that. Samsung had previously supplied Nintendo with flash memory displays, but building the Switch 2 processors would be a rare win for the company's contract chip division. Samsung can reportedly build enough chips to allow Nintendo to ship 20 million or more Switch 2s by March of 2026. NVIDIA's new chipset was reportedly optimized for Samsung rather than TSMC's manufacturing process. Using Samsung also means that Nintendo won't be competing with Apple and others for TSMC's resources. During Nintendo's latest earnings calls, President Shutaro Furukawa said that the company didn't expect any component shortages with its new console, an issue that plagued the original Switch. Nintendo said in the earnings report that it was caught by surprise with the 2.2 million applications for Switch to pre-orders in Japan alone. Despite that, the company, well, that's because it's reasonably priced in Japan. The company projected sales of 15 million Switch 2 units in the first year sale during March 2026, fewer than analyst predictions of 16.8 million, likely due to the impact of Trump's tariffs. They got a dig in there, didn't they?
Yes.
That's from Engadget. It's interesting they mentioned that. I wasn't aware. I guess the Switch 2 was the original Switch in short supply. I guess it was. It would sell out. I was a late adopter. I didn't get mine until Black Friday of 2020. After I'd already been doing the stream, actually, I was a late adopter. I first went with PlayStation 4, then I went with Xbox, and then I went with Switch. So I got all three of the big consoles last generation. That was weird. I never do that, but I did at that time. And it's weird when you buy the same game on multiple consoles, and don't judge me for that. Anyway.
No, I absolutely don't. Look, I could not do that because look,
it's insanity. Yes.
We were talking about Star Wars earlier today, and I was talking about all the different versions of Star Wars that I have, VHS copies and DVD copies, and for a while I had the Laserdisc copy, and people understand it. Oh, thank you so much, RubyHoove. She said her sister is stable and getting better. Thank you all for the prayers. Texas is hot and hotter than PA. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, Texas can get hot, I'm sure, especially depending where you live. But yeah, so this is kind of like a neither here nor there. Now here's the here's the anti-Nintendo article of the night. I love how they give me bullet points. Nintendo comments on controversial Switch 2 game key cards. Nintendo's game key cards are crucial. This is a bullet point. Switch 2's 64 megabit cartridge may not suffice for large games. Then make a larger cartridge.
Yeah.
Concerns arise over the future of physical games copies. Yes, okay. Nintendo's own.
Let's be very clear here. This is not a technology issue. This is a greed issue. This is a decision they have made, and they're going to blame it on everything but their own greed.
This is what I think is going on here. I think Nintendo, much like Microsoft, much like I believe also Sony, because Sony now ships consoles without disk drives in them. You have to buy them separately to add on. I think there's a big push in this industry to get us away from collecting physical media. I think they want everything digital. And I kept wondering, what's the advantage of this and on their side? And I guess it's money, but there's also another thing. You know, if physical games exist, like a game comes out on a disc or a cartridge, retail stores sell them. Retail stores can put games on sale when the mother company doesn't put those games on sale. For instance, a little while back, Super Mario RPG Remake comes out at $59.99 for Nintendo Switch. But a few months later, I'm not kidding you, I saw this on sale. I don't know if it was at Target or Best Buy or someplace for $29.99, half off. Now, Nintendo didn't have that on as half off. Now, sometimes Nintendo does work with retailers to put things on sale, but like around Black Friday time. But this time, no, it was the retailer was putting it on sale. So I wonder if this is a way for them to keep costs high.
Yep.
I don't know. While many gamers are extremely excited to try out the Switch 2, there have been some concerns regarding the new system as well. One of the biggest among these is the existence of game key cards, which make up a significant percentage of Switch 2 launch titles. Unlike standard game cards, game key cards only contain a license to download a game. With the opening of San Francisco Nintendo Store, Nintendo CEO Doug Bowser discussed the game key cards with IGN and how they play a role in Nintendo's business. Bowser reassured that for the immediate future, physical games are still considered an important part of Nintendo's business, that the company wants to ensure that it has products available to retailers. However, it seems like game key cards were at least in part utilized to help make the Switch 2s attractive to third-party game publishers. Bowser noted that Nintendo wants to have the broadest and deepest library of content, and using game key cards allows its third-party partners to bring more content as well as deeper and larger, more immersive content. I'll try to explain. Third-party partners. This is like if Namco wants to bring out a game on the Switch, or like oddly enough, Atari. Yeah,
I was going to say for those of us that had Atari back in the 70s, if Activision wanted to put out a game.
Activision was not a licensed Atari third party. Atari, this was before the third party system existed. Atari would buy the rights to Pac-Man or Space Invaders, and then they would make the game themselves internally. It wasn't Namco or Nintendo making Donkey Kong on the Atari, at least not that first set. It was Atari making the game themselves and shipping it themselves. Activision comes along and says, we're going to make our own cartridges for the Atari 2600. And in some respects, they play better than the ones made by Atari proper.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
This sort of stuff would continue on. I remember, I think Electronic Arts on the Sega Genesis would sometimes make cartridges that weren't officially Sega licensed, but they would still make them for the Sega Genesis. I'm trying to think what other companies did this. Atari on the original Nintendo with their Tengen cartridges, they would bring out Tengen cartridges that were not officially licensed by Nintendo. This sort of thing sort of bows out after that. You don't have companies doing this anymore. But in the early days, that was the thing. But no, the idea is, though, third parties can release games on Nintendo consoles. Like if you're like Warner Media, they want to release the new Harry Potter game. They'll release it on PlayStation, they'll release it on Xbox, and then now they're going to release it on the Nintendo Switch too. But it's going to be on a game key card because Nintendo, I guess, is not making big enough game cartridges to house these games. So just get the game key card, put it in your Switch, it downloads, and now you have the game. But all you've really done is a key to unlock a digital copy you've downloaded from the internet. And this actually puts puts burden on your storage on your Nintendo Switch, whereas the burden would be taken up by the cartridge before.
Exactly. Real quick, want to say hi to DJ Play Nice, who just stopped in to say hi. Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank, makes a great point. He says part of digital only is control over availability. The game isn't as big because they won't have to invest time and money and physical media creation distribution. That's really all this is, because let's just be, and good night, RubyHoove. Thank you for stopping in. I can't express enough how much I really, really appreciate your support. I really, really do. If they wanted to, they could put the whole game on a cartridge. Okay. You would not have to worry about download speed, all that sort of stuff. And they could hardwire in the license into the cartridge, right? And you wouldn't be able to copy the thing because you would need that license and all that kind of. Right. So the copy element of it would still be there, but there's more to it than that. It's not just keeping someone from copying it. It is that. And that only exists because they're cheaping out and not putting it in a physical media. So they have to do all these other things to prevent you from making a copy and sharing it by downloads to other people, because that's how you're getting the game in the first place. But in addition to that, it's I believe it's even more nefarious than that. They want to be able to say, you can't have this game anymore, gone.
The tragedy of all of this is that the Nintendo Switch, the original Nintendo Switch, was considered one of the best modern consoles for collecting physical media on. A lot of games came out physically on the Switch, some which didn't come out physically on other consoles. If you wanted a physical copy of a like an indie game or something, there's a good chance it would show up on at least on the Switch, and maybe in turn other consoles as well, like the Tomb Raider collection, which I unfortunately bought digitally because there was no physical version available when I bought it, and then they announced like 2 months later. Oh well. But it's I mean, I buy physical, I buy digital, I buy both. But it depends on, I don't like to spend a lot of money on digital because there's always that thing in the back of my head. Will this disappear on me one day? So I try not to go. I never go above $20 for a digital game. Yeah.
I don't mean to speak for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is that you buy digital if it's the only thing available. But then you also have a set in your mind that you're not really buying it. You're really more like leasing it.
I'd like to think that in favor of good customer service that these companies will not take this stuff away from me, that they will not go there. I don't know if I completely trust that though, but yeah.
No, I'm finding with these companies more and more, I have zero trust, or I trust them to try to screw me. I'm almost at that point. I'm that jaded by these companies.
Right now, these companies, they need a good slap in the face. That's what needs to happen. It's not going to happen.
What's going to happen, folks, is if you realize you don't need the thing they're putting out and you don't buy it.
I don't want to hear anyone complaining about the Switch 2 price and then they go and pre-order it. I don't want to hear that. You're either okay with the price, you're okay with the price, but don't say you're not okay with the price and then go pre-order it. Try at a friend, get a copy of a game digital if a store didn't have it. Oh, like they're sold out of it at the store, so I might as well buy it digitally. I mean, that happens. I mean, I did that with a couple of movies sometime. Like if I couldn't get
maybe I'm not fully understanding the comment there because
okay, I go to my local game store and they're all out of the physical copy of the game. Well, I'll just buy the digital copy because I want to play it.
But what I'm getting at is it not available at another store? Is it not something you could
it could be like a limited or something? It could be like a limited edition thing. Like there was a problem recently with the Lunar Remastered Collection. It was an Amazon release exclusive. You weren't allowed to pre-order it because the company releases, oh, well, plenty of copies. And of course, release day comes, they sell out. Oh, we didn't anticipate demand. You said there were going to be plenty of copies. I think they finally resupplied the Xbox and PlayStation versions of this collection. I think we're still waiting on the Switch versions to get replenished. But I went ahead and picked up the PlayStation 4 version physical because I've been wanting this. But Hasbro needs a kick. Yes, well,
I think they need more than that. I think that's letting them off easy. They need something.
They need Ark of the Covenant, Wrath of God.
Yes, they do.
But speaking of physical media, this always happens to me where, Splintered Fate, it's on sale, and they it's been months. They haven't announced a physical edition. Oh well, I'll just get it off the Nintendo eShop while it's on sale. Ding, ding, ding! Here comes a physical edition, and this is when I decide, well, I don't have it on PlayStation. Right? I'll pick it up on the PlayStation for physically. Yes. Go ahead. You're saying?
No, I wasn't. No.
Yeah. So this is actually good news. Teenage Ninja Turtles Splinter Fate is getting a pair of physical editions on August 26th. A $40 deluxe edition that comes with foil trading cards. It also comes with all the DLC for the game too, so you don't have to buy the Casey Jones pack separately. It comes on the disc, I think. And a $100 collector's edition with a pizza box storage case loaded with cool extras. Pre-orders for both physical editions are now available on Amazon for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox. Keep in mind the Xbox version of this game includes both the Xbox One versions and the Xbox Series version. So you're covered whichever console you own, except for Switch 2 apparently, because there's no Switch 2 edition announced. But TMNT Splintered Fate, originally released as an Apple Arcade exclusive in May 2023, before being ported to the PC and Nintendo Switch last summer. PlayStation and Xbox editions will be available digitally on May 20th and June 24th, respectively. The Deluxe and Collector's Edition will bring Splintered Fate to physical form for the first time. If you haven't gotten this game and you're waiting for it to come to PlayStation or Xbox, I would argue buy the physical edition. It's cool looking. If you don't want to buy the $100 edition, there's a $40 edition. You get cool foil trading cards, and it's about what it would cost you physically. It's because it has the DLC included. So this is a neat. I'm a Turtles fan.
I will say that what I love about this, I'm looking at this.
You like those die?
Oh yeah, the die, the cards.
Those come with the regular edition too. The cards, just so you know.
Yeah. But that's fine. But this is I love that kind of stuff. This kind of add-in kind of stuff is there's a comic book there too. I mean, all of these things
looks like a couple posters.
A good package deal. And darn it, you could get me to actually be willing to go with a digital version of a game if I got all kinds of other tchotchkes that came with it, that I always had something physical.
They should release a version with a Steam code. There you go.
Yeah.
because Steam's still digital. But yeah, it's just this is a cool little game. I got it for the Nintendo Switch. I'm gonna pick it up physically on the PlayStation 4. I don't know if I'm gonna spring for the $100 or if I'm gonna go for the $40, but either way, I'll be happy. And big fan of this game. You get to choose your favorite turtle to play as. I think if you get Casey Jones, you can play as Casey Jones also. Do you know Casey Jones, the
absolutely, the hockey mask guy,
the vigilante? On the animated series, they made him sound like Clint Eastwood. But
interesting.
Big fan of this game because it's done like a roguelike. I almost want to say like Diablo style, where you're hacking around things in the sewer. Like there are all these levels in the sewer and you fight a boss. But then if you get killed, you get sent back to the turtle's lair and you have to start over again. But you still can keep your experience, I think. And I play as Raphael. He's my favorite turtle. So yeah. Adrian, does it come with a pizza? No, I don't think so. It's funny you mentioned that though. When they did a physical release of Shredder's Revenge, the Brawler Turtles game to count with, you got a coupon for a free personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut.
I remember that, and that's a brilliant tie-in. That actually makes
it was a throwback because when you bought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, you got a free coupon for a personal pan pizza at Pizza Hut back in like 1990. So,
but what I do need to ask you is, you said you weren't certain if you wanted to get the $40 or the $100.
Yeah,
and I have to say, what kind of a fan are you? You put a price. You put a price on being a fan. You're not a real fan.
Well, here's the deal.
Cheapskate is what you are.
Well, here's the deal, though. I want to say this, though. This is them asking you to pay $100 as an option to get a bunch of cool free swag. And if you don't want the free swag, there's also a $40 edition available. They give you a choice. And they're not trying to rip you off. But let's move on to...
Yes, exactly. Bingo.
Do you like the picture I picked?
Well, that's fine.
That's
I would not be looking for the most flattering picture of this guy anyway.
This is not the first time we've talked about Randy Pitchford on the stream. Remember when the Borderlands movie came out and he was making all those weird statements, and I told you how he had left a thumb drive at a medieval times restaurant chain that had, of course, a lot of because he works in the gaming industry, has a lot of code and stuff like that on the thing, but also a lot of inappropriate videos that apparently were rather sketchy, maybe not sketchy enough to get him arrested, but sketchy as it was. And he left this. You don't put that stuff on your work drive at the very least, even if you are looking at it. It's like what.
No, Darth Plato is absolutely right. If you're a real fan, you'll make it happen. An either or fallacy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I it's just ridiculous. Yeah,
but we're going to get more into the economic idiocy of this as well.
I have hated Randy Pitchford for a while. Maybe hate's a strong word. I don't know. Years and years ago, Sega had hired him and the Borderlands team to work on an Aliens Colonial Marines first-person shooter game for consoles. Can you imagine a cooler idea for a game? You play as one of the Colonial Marines shooting xenomorphs, like in an Aliens type environment, you know?
Yeah.
Instead, they, from what I had heard, they took the money given to them by Sega and they put it into the next Borderlands. I think it was Borderlands 2, and they turned out a crap Aliens Colonial Marines game, and a lot of people were very angry. I don't know if Sega sued them over that. I think they should have. Like, we're talking about companies suing people. This is an example where I think they would have been in the right. Because you hire someone to do a job, and this thing was a complete mess from what I heard. It's funny, Sega would go on later to make a game called Alien Isolation, which actually got very positive feedback, and it wasn't made by the Borderlands team. But anyway, let's go into this article. If you're a real fan, you'll make it happen. Randy Pitchford has a message for fans worrying about the price of Borderlands 4. Just as we were getting used to video games costing $70, studios have started to break it to us that their next games will or might cost $80. Borderlands 4 currently falls into the might category, and even though it isn't confirmed to cost $80, Randy Pitchford isn't being very sympathetic to those who won't be able to afford it if it does. Replying to a tweet from the Gearbox boss in which Pitchford was celebrating Borderlands 4 coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, a fan warned the CEO of the dangers of pricing the next game in the series at $80. They noted that a lot of people won't be willing to pay $80 for Borderlands 4, which is probably true, but Pitchford claims he's not the one who gets to make the call. Not my call. Pitchford tweeted in response, and he really should have left it at that. I agree. If that's all he had done, he's right. It's not his call. And keep in mind that this is someone giving a friendly warning, someone who actually wants the game to succeed. This isn't coming out of malice. This person is worried that if you release the game at $80, it's not going to sell. But let's see. He goes on to say, though, parent company Take-Two Interactive and self-professed non-gamer Strauss Zelnick will be the ones who dictate how much Borderlands 4 will cost. Self-professed non-gamer Strauss Zelnick. I love how he's in charge of Take-Two Interactive. That's great. Way too... don't you love CEOs?
No. I think they're all overpaid.
Okay,
they're overpaid morons.
Pitchford couldn't leave things at a 3-word reply, though, and went on to tell Borderlands fans that they're not real fans if they can't find a way to pay $80 for the next game.
That always is a brilliant way to run a business. Insult your audience. Yeah, that's worked out so well for every area of entertainment these days, right?
Yes, so let's look at this. If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. Pitchford added, telling a story about how he bought a copy of Starflight for the Sega Genesis in 1991 for $80 working an ice cream parlor job after he left high school. Let's go ahead and take a look at, let's see if you can see the price there. Hold on. I guess I should have made that big. Can you read what the price is there, Troy?
I can't, and it's not
$80 is what it is. It's like $63.99, I think. It's $64.
I was going to say it's really the dark on dark is why I'm having.
It's a lie. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if he's lying, but either he's lying or he got overcharged by the game store. That was not the retail price for Starflight. It was under $65. And to be fair, for that time, that was an expensive Sega Genesis game. Sometimes the RPGs tended to cost more money, and it might have had to do with the fact they had to have more memory on the cartridge.
That's they really did, because if you think about it, there was more interactivity, there was more sandboxiness to it.
Saving your games with battery saves. That's probably what it had to do with. It probably had less to do with the fact that they were trying to bilk the customer.
Exactly.
There's only one example of a Sega Genesis game that cost $80, and it was actually a $90 game, and that was Phantasy Star 4. Basically, Sega of Japan
Thank you so much, CluuStudio. I super appreciate it. He says, salute, Troy, Netter, Boomer.
Thank you.
There you go.
Basically, Sega of Japan wanted Sega of America to release Phantasy Star 4. Sega of America was not keen on releasing RPGs over here, but they were forced to by Sega of Japan. So Sega of America released the game for $89.99, I think, to sabotage it.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Possible.
Sega, see, all companies have had their problems even in the past. Anyway, it was funny though. A friend of mine's dad, he was into the Sega Genesis, and I heard a story from him that he went to go pick up Phantasy Star 4 because this is Sega's big role playing game series, Phantasy Star, and he finds Phantasy Star 4 and sees the price tag, and I think he literally was cussing in the store. Walked out and then became a PC gamer after that. He was done. If you overcharge your customers, sometimes they take it, and sometimes they leave and don't look back, and that's where we are. So Pitchford couldn't leave things. Okay, so yeah, Pitchford has failed to account for a few things when tweeting their play. For starters, I'm assuming the 91 version of him was living at home and therefore didn't have rent or mortgage to pay. My guess is that pretty much everything he earned could go directly to his video game fund. That won't be the case for the bulk of people who want to play Borderlands 4 at launch this year. The price of the platform which you need to play Borderlands 4 will also have big role to play. The Genesis was $189 at launch in 1989. That's almost $200 cheaper than the cheapest platform you'll be able to play Borderlands 4 on Xbox Series S following Xbox recent price hikes. Price hikes that aren't done yet, as the platform shift $80 games is still to come. I guess that's Microsoft releasing their own games that they publish at $80, like Call of Duty, which they now own. As expected, studios will take the wrong lessons from Nintendo breaking the $80 barrier for Mario Kart World, because Nintendo shouldn't have broken that barrier. That's my own opinion. There are only a handful of games that can get away with charging that much. First-party Nintendo games, Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. Anything else will be a serious roll of the dice, and I'm not sure Borderlands 4 should take that gamble. What do you think?
I think I'm going to share a quick video here from Snarky J, who has a commentary on this, and she did a great job. Yes. She was very even-handed. She talked about some elements of the economy that could justify.
Because she's saying if everything else is going up, is it wrong for her to expect games not to go up either?
Inflation and so on and so forth. But she also makes the point that I want to make, and that is, for crying out loud, keep in mind that these are luxury items we do not need. And there are people in this world, in this country, that are trying to figure out how to get gas in their tank, pay their mortgage or rent, and pay for a dozen eggs, damn it.
Yes.
We don't need these games to survive. There are other things we could be doing with our money. So screw you for being so ridiculously insensitive. You're not a real fan if you don't have the money to afford this damn thing, and you're barely scraping by and sending your kids to school and keeping them fed.
Yes.
For crying out loud, you insensitive. Not going to say it. Not going to say
it. We got to be good.
What I am going to say is thank you so much for Nate. $2 super chat to say Kathleen Kennedy's older sister needs to shut up.
He's talking about Randy Pitchford, I think.
Yes. I get the joke. That is very, very funny.
By the way, I did want to bring up a point, though. Like we're saying, this is something that's been driving me crazy lately. How they say, well, games in the old days, they used to cost $80. No, they didn't. These were rare events when a game cost.
Well, you could make the argument, depending on what game they're talking about and when it was, that adjusted for inflation, you could argue that they were $80. But
fine, but I'm looking at the base price here. Most of the Sega Genesis games on this page are $47.99. I recall my memories of the Sega Genesis games were $49.99. Super Nintendo games were $59.99, unless Nintendo published them themselves. Then it was $49.99.
And here's a very simple calculation to make: those games adjusted for inflation. Inflation did not double.
No,
the price of things in that amount of time.
No, it didn't. And the point is, though, I always saw, and the NES was $99.95. I think it was. I think the NES 2, when it came out, was $49.99 when they released the redesigned model at the end of the life cycle. I mean, and now we have Xbox increasing the prices like 5 years in. This is insane.
Yeah,
this never happens, and I don't know why they're trying to turn this into a boutique hobby.
Absolutely is greed. See, they do not think about the market any longer. They think about what they want their profit to be, and when their profit suffers because of the economy and so on and so forth, they just go, well, we're just raise prices to match, not thinking through that. Look, things are tough all over, and not all sale products are made equal. You will never be able to justify paying more for a game when you're paying more for eggs and you have to make a choice between the two of them. You will never be able to do that.
Nope.
So I'm sorry, you big rich companies that are overcharging as it is. Maybe you need to suffer a little bit and take a little bit smaller bonus this year and maybe a little bit smaller profit. You're still making a damn profit.
Super Nintendo was $199.95. I believe you're correct. I remember saving up for that, and I bought it not at launch, but in the spring after its launch. But to be fair, Nintendo gave you 2 controllers, not just one, and they gave you a game with it. I believe the game was Super Mario World. I believe Sega competed with Nintendo by selling the Sega Genesis with a pack-in game for $149.95. They went $50 cheaper. And Sega, this was the console wars. They were competing They
now
really
you
were
also
competing with each
told
other.
me that during those console wars, some of the consoles went for they were taking a loss on the console to get you to buy the console and then buy the game.
I don't know. I think that was the case with the Nintendo 64 because I think that they really were selling that below cost. I don't know if that was the same for the Super Nintendo. I mean, I think the Super Nintendo was probably charging you what it costs. Same goes for Sega, because I think when the Sega Genesis launched, it was like the Super Nintendo. I think it was $199.90, and then like later on, after it'd been out a couple of years, and Super Nintendo comes on the scene to compete, they say let's lower it $50. We'll pack it with Sonic the Hedgehog. Now we're in business. So yeah.
This is absolutely proprietary accessories are a proven FU to the customer by the gaming companies. Absolutely true. Absolutely.
You know who didn't do proprietary? Oddly enough, Sega. Their controller ports were the same as the Atari controller ports. You could technically take a Sega Genesis controller and plug it into an Atari 2600 and it will work. Isn't that interesting? So
there you go.
Nintendo was always proprietary with its controller ports. They finally, I think, got away from that with the Switch generation. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to former Sony head. So to be fair, he's not in charge of Sony right now, but he had his own words to say about. No, this is the prior one. Sorry, we didn't get to the Sony one. I won't spend too much time on this. No, you probably already posted this, and then I probably took forever because I'm on Randy Pitchford.
Well, possibly.
But I'm not going to spend.
Or maybe it's because I dropped the Snarky J link and thought it was an article I was posting.
There you go. Former PlayStation exec says $70-$80 games are a steal. I don't think they should be complaining. Now, to be fair, this guy is no longer in charge of PlayStation. He was. It feels to me like the closer we get to Nintendo Switch 2's June launch and the apparently $80 game associated with it, the more people are fighting with themselves over what is and isn't worth it. But at least Sony veteran and previous head of PlayStation Indies, Shuhiro Yoshida, is free from inner turmoil. He thinks relatively expensive, high-quality video games are unequivocally necessary. Speaking to Critical Hits Games in a video interview during the recent Gamescom Latin, Yoshida says, when you look at life in general, other products and price have increased, way more than the game price. So I think it was almost too late for the video game companies to start looking at pricing structure. I don't believe that every game has to be priced the same. Yoshida continues, each game has different value it provides or the size of budget. I totally believe it's up to the publisher, developer, self-publishing decision to price their product to the value they believe they are bringing in. Nintendo openly shares this mindset as current Nintendo America product experience Vice President Bill Trinan told IG in April, we just look at each individual game and we look at the content and the value of the game, and then we say, what is the right price for the value of this entertainment? I'm sure that's what they do. I'm sure that's not what they do.
I feel like, well, no, I mean, what a business should be doing is looking at, you have to do your research, right? You got to think through what is the cost of development, what is the cost of materials, cost of distribution, all the costs involved. You need to charge more than that because you need to make a profit. And there is a level of profit that you have to make to make it worthwhile. And there's kind of like what?
There's no physical cost with a disc, though.
No. Yes, that's absolutely true. But there is still, you got to pay the people that made the game, that developed the game, that distribute the game. There are costs involved to the company that have to be covered. And it very much like Snarky J pointed out, there is an element where you start going, if I'm not making enough profit, I really can't justify continuing to be in this business any longer. I'd be better off going and making games for somebody else.
Figure out a way to make games for less money then. Stop blowing all these budgets, hiring all these people you probably don't even need to be hiring.
That was the other point that I was trying to lead up to. Yes. And the other side of that is, what can the market bear? If you're trying to raise your prices in a time when people are unable to afford it or unwilling to afford it, well, that's just fine. You can justify your cost, but now people aren't going to buy it and you're still in the same problem.
They're going to turn this into a rich person's hobby. That's what they're going to do, because the regular person's not going to be able to afford it anymore.
Right. And then what ends up happening is you end up getting the runaway. Oh, well, now we got rich people buying it only, so we can start jacking the prices up even more.
This is the problem with movie theaters, jacking up the prices of tickets. It's like, what are you doing? Just
exactly.
Yoshida continues to say, in terms of the actual price, $70 or $80 for really great games, I think it's still a steal in terms of the amount of entertainment that the top quality games bring to people compared to other forms of entertainment. As long as people choose carefully how they spend their money, continues, I don't think they should be complaining. Well, someone brought up a point that if you think of really wealthy people in the past, do they spend their money on $80 games? Aren't some of the wealthiest people some of the biggest cheapskates out there in the world, if you think about it?
Absolutely
Do
right.
they throw their money around? No. And so I don't know what he's going on about.
And Nate says, yes, these jerks in their let them eat cake attitude. That's absolutely right. They want you to spend your money because they want to have your money.
CluuStudio, I paid $8 to see Independence Day in the theater. That's what ticket prices were like back then. I remember.
Yep.
And you could get a student discount too.
Yep.
But now it's like twice that if you're lucky.
And let's be honest, concessions, you could always calculate concessions as being comparable. So if you spent $8 to go see Independence Day, you probably spent $8 on a popcorn and soda.
I think that's
if you went big, and if you got a candy, you were going over that. It's always been that way, and that was really how they survived. Always keep in mind that the lion's share of that still goes back to the studios. So in order for remember, this is not me defending business. This is me just pointing out the way reality works. Any business, whether it's a theater, a game company, whatever, they need to be able to make a profit. Otherwise, why are they doing the thing? You never go into business to break even. I always make the joke about the company that makes change machines, but the company that makes change machines makes a profit, and you buying the change machine break even or taking a loss because you needed to facilitate your other business that needs that tool. Every company needs to make money or they won't do it. And if a company stops making profit, they go out of business. When you're upset that, oh man, I used to love that product, but that company went out of business. Well, maybe not enough people liked that product to make it profitable. But there is also the other side of it that I think we're all kind of getting at is there's making profit and there's making profit, right?
I guess. Is this a segue? No. Oh, Troy, it's not justified. The next generation of games console is going to be digital only, where there's no reason to charge $80 to $100.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, because this is them trying to justify their high prices while lowering the price for them to put it out and giving you less. We're going to give you less, charge you the same price or more, and belittle you if you complain about it. That is the problem. Yeah.
What Xbox will do is they'll sell you on Game Pass and say, well, you can just go to our subscription service and that $80 game is on our subscription service. And you could just pay like $10 a month for it, and that $10 will soon turn into $30 in a couple of years. You know what I mean? And then you don't own the product.
I think probably the thing we haven't mentioned here that underscores this the most is that these game companies don't realize how vulnerable they are. Part of their loss of profit is people buying less games because they're starting to get tired of poor games or games that are put out broken and messaging inserted into their games. So people are starting to turn away from games, definitely turning away from consoles. So these companies can raise their prices all they want. They will go out of business. This is becoming a perfect storm to destroy your business, and you don't even realize it.
Well, here's another thing too with that Turtles game coming out, and I know it's more of an indie, like it's not like a big budget like Borderlands 4, but I'm thinking they're only charging me $40. I don't feel like they're ripping me off. It's a good game. It has multiplayer cooperativity on the couch or online. You can have fun with this. So,
well, Lester San Jose kind of
yeah.
says it too. If they make games excellently and release it for a limited time, then the $80 tag is worth it. Yeah, that's a big if. That excellently is not happening. I don't see anyone doing that. If you could get a game that isn't broken on day one, that requires an additional download, sometimes being charged for an additional download, yes, then maybe you could say, look, there is nobody that puts out games like we do. That's why we can charge the premium price.
More people are playing player-made games on Steam than any of the those AAA games.
That's true.
Well, let's move on to a AAA game that got released recently. There'll be more on this in the coming weeks. I think you posted this earlier. Hold on.
Did I?
See if I can find it. It's the Doom thing.
Yep.
All right. Let me see if I can find it. Scroll up, as Troy often says to me. Yeah, there we go. Exactly. There's Snarky J again. We love Snarky J, but she. Let me see here. There we go. Some Doom. This is a little. It's a few weeks old. Okay, but this is an older article, but I think it's relevant to what we were talking about. Days before the launch of Doom: The Dark Ages, some fans took to social media to state that they had canceled their pre-orders after it was uncovered that the game's disc only contained a tiny amount of data and not the full product. Ergo, Doom: The Dark Ages requires a full 85 gigabyte download of the game to play on all available platforms. Basically, this is like one of the Switch 2 game key cards. That's basically what this is.
Doom: The Dark. I love to find out that the gaming community in a herd mentality, all unified, and said, you know what? No.
Yeah. A lot aren't, yeah. Doom: The Dark Ages is a prequel to the 2016 Doom reboot that will delve into the Doomslayer's origins and his unending war against the demons, along with new weapons such as the Shield Saw and Reaver Chainsaw to tear through hordes of enemies. Doom: The Dark Ages will take players through otherworldly levels like the cosmic realm, a Lovecraftian dimension infested with horrific demons for the Doomslayer to take down. But after news broke that physical copies of Doom: The Dark Age contain a few megabytes of data, players took to social media to protest the matter, as reported by Pure Xbox. A Twitter username Does It Play stated that some fans had canceled their pre-orders of Doom: The Dark Ages due to the controversial physical release decision. With only a small amount of data on both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X game discs, this means that playing Doom: The Dark Ages requires substantial download of approximately 85 gigabyte on consoles. The steep download requirement is a major problem for users without access to high download speeds. I think people have caught on, and they're tired of this nonsense. And I will say, I do believe that the majority of games that come out disc, they have some game in a playable form on the disc. Now, they may release post-launch patches, but if you can still download the game. It's not download the game from the disc. Like, the game is physically on the disc. That's what I'm saying. But this one isn't.
And CluuStudio makes a great point. He says, such a ripoff. So I just spent $80 just for your fancy packaging. Essentially, yes.
Yes. You spent $80 for a disc key, basically. And this is not the first time this has happened. I remember I bought the Spyro collection from Activision, and I think it was another one of these things that required this huge download. I'm like, let me guess, the game's not on the actual disc I bought. Now, I don't know if some of these companies later on, they do put the game on the disc, like if they re-release the game like in a year, or like further future copies will have the game on the disc. That might be a possibility. You can wait and see if that happens. But again, how do you know which disc you're buying is one of these dud discs or one that has the actual game on it? I don't know. So it's just ridiculous. Troy, it's not justified. The next generation of games consoles are still going to be digital only, which there's no reason to charge $800. No copy, no shipping, no more GameStop stores. Yeah. Well, they used to complain about GameStop because of the whole used thing. I remember that was a big thing. Okay, I might pay $70. I made Batman levels. Yeah, I know. I'm just... they're not going to have that on a modern game, dude. That'll be next week's story when I talk about what they did to the Onimusha 2 remaster. You're not allowed to have sexy ladies in the games these days. Troy, US Gaming Czar will fix all of this. Yes, he will. Troy will fix things, right? Troy will fix things by downloading the free fan-made Star Wars mod for the old Doom on his Steam account. You can do that. They have that old Star Wars mod. You know, the one you're telling me about.
Exactly. And with Nate Knows says, brothers and sisters, close your wallets. Well, yeah, and this article is literally saying that's what the game community did in this case. That sends a loud message to these game companies.
If I feel I'm being ripped off, I close my wallets. Many of these purported, like, there are occasions where I would buy a game at launch. I bought Resident Evil 2 at launch, the remake, because it was my favorite game of the 5th generation. They were remaking it, and to be fair, they charged $59.99 for that. It wasn't this horrendous amount of money. Or you can wait, and usually a lot of these games will go down in price, except for the Nintendo release games, because Nintendo does not like to put anything on sale.
Curtis, when I am kidding, I will never say who is taking that job. So that is a conversation we would not be having in front of anybody else.
I did want to bring up a point, though. I don't think the full numbers are out yet, but I've heard the scuttlebutt that this Doom game is not doing nearly as well as the last two, especially
I'm shocked. One. Really?
And
amazing.
If Doom sequel, a proper Doom sequel, is not doing the numbers, what does Randy Pitchford think a Borderlands sequel is going to do? And to be fair, this game cost $69.99. It wasn't the full $80. Yes. So moving on to
you should make sure all of your games are $69 because nice.
69, dude.
Exactly right.
I think $69.99 is too high for games. That was started at the beginning of this latest generation. They I think it was 2K Games did that. It wasn't Nintendo, but the $69.90 thing came about when the Xbox Series and PlayStation 5 consoles came out. But now they're now Nintendo pushing 80.
He says he can't even afford the game, so yeah.
Well, like I said, that Turtles game at $39.99, I think that's a decent deal. And but never mind. Okay, let's move on to movies. A nice, healthy entertainment industry we can talk about. S&P downgrades.
Warner Brothers needs to really be sweating right now.
S&P downgrades Warner Brothers Discovery to junk status on weak credit metrics that would get worse if company splits. I have a question. Junk status, is that bad?
Yes, it is.
That sounds bad.
It's the exact opposite of a blue chip. A blue chip is something you can safely get and know you will always make a profit with. Junk status is, you're probably not going to be making any profit off of this for any extended length of time.
Because for every Minecraft movie, there's a Mickey 17 or a Joker Filet-O-Dew.
Before we get too far into this, we always have to give the disclaimer. Don't take anything that we say here as investment advice. We know nothing about investing. We're just giving our opinions, and if you're taking your investment advice from a couple of geeky geezers on the interwebs, you're a fool being parted from his money. But
one word: plastics. I'm kidding.
Yeah, get into plastics. That might not be such a good business these days, since people are starting to reject those. But it is. This is the kind of situation that opens your company up to maybe an activist investor coming along and buying up all those, junk stocks, and ending up with a sizable portion of your company to come in and say, let's make it not junk anymore. Let's get rid of you. And let's start doing some things differently.
S&P downgraded Warner Brothers Discovery to BB Plus amid continued revenue and cash flow declines in its linear TV operations. Anything BB Plus and below junk bond status for a giant ratings agency. I thought that, as I was just saying, how HBO was must-see TV. HBO, they changed it back to HBO Max. Come on. They changed the name. It reaffirmed its negative outlook. It also said that from a credit perspective, it's not a fan of a possible Warner Brothers Discovery split teased by CEO David Zaslav last week after internal reorganization split the company into two divisions, streaming and studios and global linear networks this month. Separation would be a credit negative, S&P said. Linear woes saw S&P lower its forecast from the EBITDA. I don't even know what that means. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. See, look, they spelled it out for me. For 2020.
I don't know this for sure. I didn't see an article or I didn't see a video, but I would bet dollars to baked beans that Valiant Renegade probably did a video on this topic. He's your financial guy. He's got all the explanation of these kinds of high level economics.
So Warner Brother Discovery's total advertising and distribution performance has lagged peers due to its higher exposure to general entertainment content, weaker portfolio of domestic sports rights, which is further exacerbated by the loss of the NBA broadcast rights.
Yeah.
Oh, remember how that was prediction like that would be a disaster, and it happened? And a smaller base of ad-supported streaming subscribers wrote S&P out. The agency does not expect Warner Bros. Discovery to materially accelerate deleveraging throughout asset sales, but to instead prioritize investment in its growth businesses, which will extend to deleveraging path. It's talking about investment in streaming as Warner Bros. Discovery switched the name of its fastest growing flagship platform back to HBO Max. But even there, S&P expects the pace to moderate in 2026 with ramped up investment in content, marketing, and international expansion as it launches in key markets like the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
You get HBO Max in the UK, huh? It can't be worse than the BBC. The agency noted that it has not factored a separation of the company into its current rating, but a move would be a credit negative. What do you think?
I think that, we've been talking for a very long time about bad decisions being made by these companies, and we just don't understand them. And eventually it has to come around that you reap what you sow is basically what it is. Now, I did see you just brought it up. How is it that Warner Brothers stock is junk status? Disney isn't. There's a lot more that goes into it than that. For one thing, Disney is more than just their movies and their streaming services. They're also the vacation resorts and so on and so forth, which Warner Brothers doesn't have. Warner Brothers does have their parks, their Six Flags and so forth. I think, unless
Warner Brothers has had more flops than Disney. I know we think of Disney, we look at Snow White, and some of the like Captain America, but they did have some hits, like with the Avatar movie. They Alien, I think Alien Romulus did okay. They have other things besides, like I think the Fox properties are doing better than the Disney Marvel stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, there is still the marketing. As much as I have problems with the toys and whatnot, those still are out there. Warner Brothers doesn't have that level, and they definitely don't have resorts and parks that are pulling in the kind of money that Disney is. Now, Disney is also beginning to lose money on their parks. WDW Pro, that park place, and Valiant Renegade and Culture Casino have all been talking about how the parks this weekend are empty because everybody's going to Epic Universe. But they're also being kept alive by an infusion of cash from outside sources that aren't necessarily, consuming their product so much as just infusing them with cash. So that's another thing. Plus, they're also
they have people protecting it.
And there's also a shell game going on where they rearrange the cookies on the plate to make them look like more. And keep in mind that stock price is all about perception. You believe a company is valuable, so you pay a higher price for the stock. That has nothing to do with whether or not the company is actually that valuable.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, why is Disney in better shape? Because they're better at cooking the books. I'm kidding, of course. I know they don't do that.
We can't prove that they
you
do
can't
that.
prove it, but some person was trying to come forward on that. I remember that we had a
whatever happened to that person?
I don't know. They probably disappeared. They're in a hole somewhere. Anyway, actually that's not funny. Let's hope this person is okay.
That's unfortunately too plausible.
Okay.
They said she had a subscription to Disney Plus, and they could justify doing whatever they wanted to her.
Speaking of Disney, your favorite.
Oh yeah, a little bit of and I talked about this on one of my liquid lunches last week because this was such a big deal. My take on it at the time was neither one of these people is good people, but one of them is beginning to deal with reality and the other one is not.
Yes. New rumors suggest that behind-the-scenes battles brewing over Marvel's long-awaited X-Men reboot, with Kevin Feige and Bob Iger reportedly at odds over the tone and focus of the upcoming film, according to insiders cited by X-user Main Middleman and reported by Cosmic Book News. The creative clash may determine whether Marvel's mutants return as ideological avatars or as crowd-pleasing box office titans. At the center of the Feige-Iger X-Men battle is a vision for what this new era of mutants should represent. Feige, who has overseen the Marvel Cinematic Universe since its inception, allegedly pushed for a grounded, socially charged story about mutant identity, prejudice, and the philosophical rift between the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants. There should be like an hour of just Professor X and Magneto just debating. Instead of any action, just them. That concept would follow in the footsteps of many recent Marvel offerings that leaned heavily into contemporary political metaphors and social themes. But Iger, facing mounting pressure from shareholders due to diminished MCU box office returns, appears to be pushing in a different direction after a string of box office disappointments, including The Marvels, Quantumania, Thunderbolts, and Captain America Brave New World. Disney's top brass is reportedly demanding a return to high-stakes, high-octane event films designed to reignite mass audience interest. This echoes recent history under Iger's renewed leadership. Disney has slashed underperforming Disney Plus content, cut Marvel release slate, and shifted focus back to theatrical blockbusters after admitting that audiences have grown weary of content for content's sake. Iger has already proven he's willing to course correct, gutting Chapek's distribution model, canceling greenlit projects, and firing
Chapek's distribution model.
Yes.
Sorry.
And firing execs like Victoria Alonso after public missteps. The rumored conflict also mirrors the success of Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, both of which delivered major returns by prioritizing fan service and franchise nostalgia over social commentary. It's no surprise that Iger reportedly wants the X-Men to follow that winning formula rather than risk another niche-focused flop. Casting speculation is equally chaotic. Reports have floated names like Cynthia Erivo for Storm, Daniel Day-Lewis as Magneto, Bryan Cranston as Professor X. Oh, I don't like Bryan Cranston. No. Daniel Day-Lewis as Magneto I could see, actually. And even Patrick Schwarzenegger as Cyclops. It's unclear how serious any of those contenders are, but Feige is said to be considering black actors for both Professor X and Magneto as well, another possible point of divergence from prior interpretations. You have plenty of X-Men that are... The X-Men all come from different backgrounds from around the world. You don't need to be switching. You should be doing that anyway, but especially in this case, you don't need to do any... never mind.
Leia Plus Size, welcome, by the way, says, hello, Troy and Boomer. Feige and Iger both should be fired. Well, in a common sense world. You're not wrong. And while I do lean towards the arguments that seem to be made by Iger in this particular article, that doesn't absolve him of the blame for where we are right now and why he has to now take that stance. Even in this article, he's apparently blaming Chapek, when we all know that everything Chapek did was nothing more than what Iger set forth.
Well, Iger was kind of pulling the strings, even if Chapek
absolutely
didn't
he was.
If the X-Men reboot leans too far into controversial casting decisions, race swap legacy characters, politically divisive narratives, it could go the way of the Eternals or the Marvels, expensive, alienating, and ultimately forgettable. Cynthia Erivo's rumored involvement is already drawing scrutiny from longtime fans, many of whom view her past activism and public statements over the movie Wicked as unnecessarily confrontational, combined with whispers of ideological storytelling and character imaginings that stray far from canon. It's easy to see why concern is mounting that Marvel and Feige in particular may not have learned from the franchise's recent stumbles. Whether the final product leans Feige or bends Iger, the X-Men are shaping up to be a defining battleground for Marvel's future, with Iger set to exit Disney in 2026 and the X-Men reboot not expected until 2027 or later. The long runway event, at least leaves time for either a vision to win out. But in today's climate, the stakes are clear. Marvel needs a win, and it looks like Bob Iger knows it.
So, real quick, I want to thank Geek Flag when they knows for the $2 super chat to say, I call for a vote of no confidence in both of them. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Also, Darth Plato says the point of making Magneto Black Boomer is that a white guy can't represent the oppressed, ergo Magneto has to be played by a black actor. That kind of also speaks to Curtis, who asked why they don't put Bishop into it. So let me make it very clear. Let me make it very clear. They don't bring in black characters because they want to race swap. It is more important. It is not really about representation. It really is about removing the white males. And in particular, when you're talking Magneto, a specific oppressed group that let's just put it this way. We used to say, so this never happens again. And there is a large contingent of this world that wants to make sure it happens again.
Oh no, I just had a feeling that Feige is erasing his Magneto's ethnic heritage because of perceived political inconvenience in the modern world. That is a horrible idea.
Yep.
No, that's not. No.
You go messing around with Magneto, and it hasn't happened yet. This is just a speculation, but I'll tell you what, if it comes out that they've done that, you better believe that that side of that conflict are going to get very loud about this very, very quickly.
So we know his origin, I believe, from the comics and also from the movies, where he was witness as a child to one of the worst atrocities in human history. And I think that colored his view of humans in general when he realized he was a mutant, right? It's like, get along with these people. They can't even get along with each other. Okay, that was his point of view, that the mutants need to basically take over. But Magneto was always an interesting character, though, because I think I learned in the one comic series, which was like an alternative history where someone from the future goes back in time to kill Magneto, kills Professor X by accident, and then Magneto, seeing Professor X basically in some ways become a martyr, takes on the role of Professor X's philosophy of nonviolence and trying to work with humans instead of his own thing, which I thought was kind of interesting. So
this is the most mind-boggling aspect of this, is that if there is a group of comic book superheroes that you can use for some kind of oppression messaging, it would be the X-Men. But if you have got to do it with elegance and a great deal of forethought. The X-Men have always been about representing marginalized peoples.
It's about
we live in an era that is very sensitive to messaging. So if you do it at all, it has to be well reasoned. And I do not believe, definitely Kevin Feige, but also most of the people that are currently writing for Marvel lack the awareness and the intelligence to do that.
The X-Men, I think, were supposed to represent the outsider. So the outsider can take on many forms. Certainly many marginalized groups would see themselves as outsiders, as even, you or I may have felt like outsiders in our life at points. I mean,
and the reality is, if you want to just tell the story of the X-Men. The X-Men being mutants,
yes,
as a marginalized
people are afraid of them. The government doesn't trust them.
That are not at all real, that doesn't exist in the real world, mutants with superpowers. Okay, you can tell that story and let everyone else project their own marginalized element onto them. That's the way it was always meant to be. And you could argue they represent gay people, they represent black people, they represent all people that feel that they are marginalized for some reason.
The X-Men has always been about... Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Geek Flag just dropped a $5 super chat.
Thank you
the
so
X-Men
much.
has always been about the outsider and the misfits.
Yes, that's exactly my point. But it doesn't one group can't lay claim to it. You can't look at the X-Men and say, this is about transgenderism. Well, it kind of is, but you don't own that. Sorry.
It's about feeling like an outsider. Like I would imagine
you don't own being an outsider because you have a particular, situation. Yeah.
But they were what are you saying though? But I think in DC, what's the equivalent? The Outsiders and maybe the Teen Titans.
Thank
or
you
the
again,
Titans.
Nate.
Titans are sort of like outsiders in the DC universe, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. Yeah. Troy, you are correct, sir. Oh yes, that's the old Ed McMahon thing. Mutants are insert
correct,
outsiders here. Robert's Infinite Realms. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I always saw it, and that's why it was weird when we did those Marvel crossovers for good old days, and I saw the Titans and the X-Men. I'm like, wow, they look like they'd get along swimmingly because they're very similar and probably in their outlook on things.
Well, that's why one of my favorite scenes from that crossover, DC versus Marvel, was
Nightwing and Cyclops shaking hands. I saw that. Yeah.
Well, there was that. That's true. But I was going to say there was Robin lands on the bed of I forget, because they basically have the same costume. And did you order a boy? Yeah. Did you order a boy? And she's like, no, but I like his fashion sense.
Yes, that's funny. That's funny. Anyway, let's hope for a good X-Men movie, and maybe Feige needs to take a vacation. Okay, someone got in trouble.
That's a little bit of copyright infringement potentially.
Is that James Franco from the Spider-Man movies and Freaks and Geeks and things like that?
Dave
Dave Franco. No,
that's
a different Franco. My mistake.
Different Franco.
Oh, is that James Franco's brother, who I believe she's married to? Never mind. Okay, Allison Brie and Dave Franco have been hit with a copyright infringement suit over Together, their independent horror film that sold for reported $17 million after a bidding war at Sundance. The suit filed on Tuesday alleges that the film is a blatant ripoff of Better Half, a 2023 independent film. The suit claims that Together steals the high concept idea of a couple who find themselves physically fused together, as well as numerous other plot and thematic elements, including near verbatim reference to Plato's Symposium. Franco and Brie are married and have collaborated on several projects. According to the suit, they were pitched Better Half in 2020, but they have their WME agents turn it down. The producers of Better Half, Jacqueline and Charlie Beale, heard about Together the day before it screened at Sundance and decided to view it to assess the similarities. As the audience laughed and cheered, Jacqueline and Beale sat in stunned silence, their worst nightmare unfolding, the suit states. Scene after scene confirmed that defendants did not simply take stock ideas or scenes of fare, but stole virtually every unique aspect of Better Half's copyrightable expression. The lawsuit alleges that the defendants engaged in an internal scheme to copy their film, and that Brie and Franco rejected the initial offer because they wanted to produce the film themselves and have WME package the project with another one of the agency's all-writers. Neon acquired the film at Sundance and is set to release on August 1st. The distributors named as defendant along with Brie, Franco, WME, and writer-director Michael Shanks. In response, a WME spokesperson called the suit frivolous and without merit. Well, the facts in this case are clear. We plan to vigorously defend ourselves, the spokesperson said. Better Half was written and directed by Patrick Henry Phelan, who worked as an assistant director in New York before getting his MFA in screenwriting at USC. The film was his feature debut. Studio Fest production company is the only named plaintiff in the suit. According to the suit, casting director on Better Half emailed the script and synopsis to Franco and Bree's agents at WME in August 2020, along with an offer for the couple to star. Franco's agent quickly responded, "Dave is going to pass, but thank you for thinking of him." In the synopsis, The Better Half was described as a surreal satirical comedy about a man and a woman who have a one-night stand and wake up to see if they have become literally and physically attached. The email did not describe it as a horror film. When it appeared in the Brooklyn Film Festival, it was billed as a romantic comedy. The suit describes numerous alleged similarities between the two films. In both Better Half and Together, the main characters struggle to navigate daily life as their physical attachment progresses and they start to control each other's bodily parts, the complaint alleges. While at first they desperately search for ways to detach their bodies from medical intervention to chainsaws, by the end they resign themselves to their conjoined existence. Among similarities, the suit alleges is a strikingly similar bathroom sequence where the protagonists become attached at the genitals and attempt to hide their intimate encounter from a minor character waiting just outside. The suit alleges that the films end with the couples pulling out a copy of the Spice Girls album Spice World as they accept their fate. Wow. What do we think here?
I have no idea because
I have no idea
about
either.
Either of these movies.
But see, if they hadn't been given the script already, if they hadn't seen it, I would say, well, maybe somebody stole the script and sold it to them. That was my first thoughts. But they had allegedly seen this, or an agent working for them had seen this.
I think that this is going to require somebody who has a little bit more knowledge of intellectual property laws. The one that I always go back to, because I do see some similarities and parallels here, is the whole Superman, National Comics versus Fawcett Comics. It was basically Superman versus Captain Marvel. And the whole idea of your thing looks too much like ours. You've got a superhero with super strength that can fly, that has a cape, and therefore we're suing you. If you've got a story about a couple that becomes, conjoined through some mystical means, as an allegory for, codependence, is there enough there to say you stole? Do you own the right to that idea? That storytelling element. I think most courts would say no. You need more than that.
Robert Infinite Realm says, I like Allison Brie. That's all I got. When they were going to be casting, when they announced Man of Steel, I was wanting Allison Brie. Please cast her as Lois Lane. That didn't happen, but that's why I would have cast as Lois Lane. Well, there are other problems with the Snyderverse beyond that, but But I thought she would have made a great Lois Lane, especially back from in her Community days. I don't know if you ever watched Community, the situational comedy, but I don't know. I like hot chicks. That's all I got. Yes, I know she was on that Glow Wrestling, that show on Netflix about the women of Glow Wrestling, but I don't know. They might be in some hot water here, because it's one thing if the movie came out like 20 or 30 years ago. This is like 2 years ago, and if it's that similar, I would have to see them both to judge. Yeah, that's true, because we don't know, because maybe they are different enough and people are seeing similarities where there are none. But
I'll tell you, especially if one's a horror movie and one's a comedy.
As you've said, though, the beats in both are similar.
Yeah, but they are still telling very different stories.
I don't know, though, but it's the fact that they saw this script. I mean, they could have purchased the script and then tweaked it to their liking and made it into a comedy. But by then going off and doing their own thing, I just don't know.
Again, I think it does come down to, how similar is it?
Yeah.
And again, is the suing side making the argument they own the rights to a concept of a conjoined romantic couple? Because you can't do that. That is just legally, you don't have a right to that.
True.
You're going to have to make a serious argument that there's more to it than that. This has come up so many. There was another. We keep going back to DC Comics. DC Comics versus the Greatest American Hero. They tried the same thing with that, and again, the court said you don't own the rights to a flying guy with a cape. In fact, it was funny because I think the judge said something to the effect of, I've looked at this story of this greatest American hero. It's more like your Green Lantern than it is like Superman, you know?
So it's like Nintendo also doesn't have the rights to ball throwing. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. This reminds me of Kurtzman Trek. Maybe we'll find out they both script ripped off a Kurtzman Trek episode where.
I mean, you could even make the same argument that J. Michael Straczynski turned in a treatment for Deep Space Nine, and it was read by Paramount, and they said no, we don't want it, and then turned around and put out Deep Space Nine.
Yep,
they're themselves, you know.
Next story. Speaking of someone who I guess is. Oh wait, that's thanks. Oh no. What? No, I hate it when this happens. I forgot.
You didn't put in a slide for Thanksgiving?
I thought I had a slide. I thought I had one in here. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. We maybe I gave them to you out of order. Let me see if I did.
That's okay. Do you want to go back to the Spike Lee thing? I'm not
yes,
much time on
yeah, you're right. We could go back to.
I'm not going to spend too much time on this.
That was my fault again. I'm screwing up this whole stream tonight.
It's all right. It's okay.
I'm worthless, people. I'm worthless.
You're fine. We did 2 streams today. Come on, it's all right. Okay.
And I got another one coming up after this. Yeah.
Highest to lowest review. Spike Lee's Kurosawa-inspired kidnapping drama isn't so much a remake as a manifesto.
Yep. Submitted by Marc Malnekoff.
Now, that's what the review says. I'm not saying, I mean, I don't know. I'm not seeing much in here about what is manifesto about it. It looks like there's enormous risk in remaking a movie like High and Low. Japanese master Akira Kurosawa set the bar high with the 1963 take on a kidnapping that brings an ambitious businessman to his knees, which means even in the hands of such visionary director as Spike Lee, you can't help wondering how low a modern New York setup might go. For 3/4 of its running time, Lee's highest to lowest glides along far better than skeptics might have expected. It's night and day with its sordid U.S. adaptation of Old Boy. I did not watch his adaptation of Old Boy. That one had James Brolin in it. I've seen the original. I think.
Yeah.
What country did Old Boy come from? Was that China or Korea? I don't remember. Anyway,
I thought Korean, but I might be wrong.
It might have been Korean. I think it was Korean. And then comes a scene of which there was no equivalent in Kurosawa's version of Face Off between Denzel Washington and ASAP Rocky as the man with the nerve to ransom his son, and the movie rocks in the sublime new stratosphere, delivering an electrifying last act that was once original and deeply personal. In the end, Lee has taken High and Low to new highs, delivering a soul-searching genre movie that entertains while also sounding the alarm about where the culture could be headed. Ultimately destined to stream on Apple TV+, the big screen-worthy project should perform well when A24 releases in theaters on August 22nd, 3 months after premiering competition. Sounds like they liked it. Granted, this is this one guy at Variety's thing. But I was trying to figure out, what is he talking about manifesto? Because that reminds me of a certain other manifesto.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think where it might get political is how the cops are treating the two characters, because Denzel Washington is a rich man in the music business, and they treat him with respect, whereas I think a poor black character with a criminal past is treated differently, like the police. But that would probably happen, you know. I mean, think about it. Yeah. So I do know. I think the other guy is played by Jeffrey Wright. I'm a big fan of his too. So both him and Denzel in the same movie. I think this sounds good. I'll say that.
Robert's Infinite Realm says Spike Lee doing Kurosawa holds little interest to me. Honestly, I feel like most remakes or retellings hold little interest to me. If the story's worth seeing, see the original, you know.
Geek Flex says Old Boy was Korean. I thought so, and James Brolin version was not good. Yeah, I thought that was an odd movie to remake. Now, to be fair, I'll be honest. When they remake movies like popular movies from Korea, you know why they get remade by Hollywood? They get remade because they want an English version.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to read subtitles.
They want an English version with the star appeal as well.
Yeah. I didn't see the remake because I don't know, something about. I don't want to spoil Old Boy for you if you've not seen it. It has one of those. What?
I know the twist. I know the twist.
Okay. Well, anyway, who says there is a twist? as far as this movie goes, I don't know. This would be one I'd have to see to really judge it. The cast sounds good. I assume they got the rights to remake this Kurosawa movie, and maybe it's different enough because it's modern times in modern New York, different groups. Maybe it's its
I
own
will
thing.
say this about Kurosawa: the stories are pretty timeless. I mean, look, you could argue that Star Wars is a remake of Kurosawa. Multiple stories of Kurosawa's.
A Fistful of Dollars, the Sergio Leone movie with Clint Eastwood. Apparently,
a lot of those. The Magnificent Seven. You know,
they had to settle out of court for A Fistful of Dollars, I think, because they basically says, "No, you, what are you doing? You took Yojimbo and you made it into a Western."
So exactly.
But all's fair. But I need to watch Yojimbo one of these days. But never got around to that either. They do an American version that only the English speaking play. Also, don't have to pay as much to the original's creators. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. As far as highest to lowest, I don't know. This is an I don't know. Spike Lee can be hit or miss. I did like Summer of Sam. Some people may disagree with me, but I did enjoy that when it was out. Did you ever see Summer of Sam?
I did not, but that was a case that I was kind of very interested in. So I might struggle like I do in many
You might. There was a scene where you actually get to see the dog talking to the murderer, and like it's like I almost wonder if the CG on the dog is bad on purpose when it's moving its mouth and it's going, "Kill them all, kill."
Yeah. And you know that you're seeing it from his point of view.
It's just so off-putting, and I'm like, you almost want to burst out laughing, even though it's not funny because he does go around killing people. But let's move on to Thanksgiving. Here we go. Yeah, I know Leah's gotten political before, but we'll see about this movie. The casting's good, I'll say that. Thanksgiving star Neil Verlaque, I hope I'm getting your name right, Neil Verlaque, says sequel will film this year, thank you, and ask Eli Roth to be tortured and covered in blood. Thanksgiving star Neil Verlaque can't wait to shoot the sequel to the surprise box office hit. Her character, Jessica, is one of the few who survived director and co-writer Eli Roth's first Thanksgiving holiday time slasher. Verlaque tells me she's read parts of the follow-up script and Roth shared some more ideas with her. I would like to get covered in blood, she told me at the premiere of Benito Skinner's new Prime comedy series, Overcompensating. That's the least gruesome of her ideas. I told him I really wanted to be tortured, Verlaque says, like fully pained and tortured. She said of Roth's boundary-pushing work, I think it's more fun as an actor. The crazier, the better for me. The first film revolved around a serial killer who dresses like a 17th century pilgrim and terrorizes the residents of Plymouth, Massachusetts during the holiday season. It was inspired by a fake movie trailer Roth directed for 2007's Pride House. The film, which grossed $46 million worldwide against a $50 million budget, also starred Patrick Dempsey, Milo Manheim, Jalen Thomas Brooks, Rick Hoffman, and Gina Gershon. In addition to Verlaque's Jessica character, other survivors include Gaby, Addison Rex, Scuba, Gabrielle Davenport, Ryan Manheim, and Bobby Brooks. Oh, that's funny. Bobby Brooks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know.
Roth confirmed in August that the sequel will also take place during Thanksgiving. At the time, I asked him if he's looking to expand the franchise of the holidays. Let's get the sequel done first, he said. Verlaque says the goal is to shoot Thanksgiving 2 sometime this year. Overcompensating stars Skinner as a former high school football star who begins exploring coming out of the closet as gay during his freshman year at college. Verlaque plays an old classmate of Skinner's new college bestie. Okay, that's the show she's on. Did you like Thanksgiving? You saw it finally, didn't you?
I really did. And I have to admit that, we ended up watching it here as a...
on Thanksgiving, I believe, right?
On Thanksgiving, because I was doing a bunch of different Thanksgiving
Made you lose your appetite, didn't it?
Well, I did. I thought through my timing of the shows I was doing. I did all like the Peanut Thanksgiving and all the kids shows early in the day. And then, I worked my way up to
of course, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles by Prime Time. And then late at night, I did this one. I'd never seen it before. And I went in with a certain amount of trepidation, not knowing a great deal of the backstory. I didn't know about the Grindhouse. I mean, I'd seen Grindhouse, but I'd forgotten.
The fake Grindhouse trailer looks like an early 1980s slasher movie, whereas this is not. This is like a remake. It's almost like this is a remake of a movie that never got made.
Gotcha. Well, the other thing that I struggled with, at least initially, was, and I feel like the article doesn't cover this, is that it seems like a dumb idea. It's like, oh, you got to take another holiday and turn it into a horror, right? But and by using a generic pilgrim to be your mask,
your mask
so
killer, yes.
It's like, really? Okay, that's kind of dumb and contrived. But then when you see the movie, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. This isn't just some random pilgrim. This is like a mascot for their town, and it deals with the history of the pilgrims in their East Coast town and so forth. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then the motivation behind the murders actually makes sense. It was actually a well thought out story, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry I misjudged this going into it.
Plus, that Black Friday scene at the beginning, I'm not going to spoil it, but it was uncomfortable.
It absolutely was. And boy, I mean, you want to talk about messaging. That's messaging about consumerism and the consumerism kind of ruining the holidays.
Yeah, we're going to do the sale on Thanksgiving. We're going to open it, and it's like, really, on Thanksgiving? You know, they were like, because that's what was happening years ago before the pandemic hit. They were opening stores on Thanksgiving evening.
I was going to say before Cyber Monday became a thing. They started doing Black Friday, and then they started doing, hey, we could also do Cyber Monday. And then a lot of companies are going, why are we waiting? We could be doing these kinds of deals whenever we want.
Yes.
So it just became a marketing thing of online deals. And honestly, tell me if I'm wrong. I've been hearing for the past, 5-6 years, the in-store doorbusters have been lame at best.
They aren't what they were. If I can ever find this link, I'll try to find this for you. I need to send you a link of Black Friday Circuit City horror stories. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, apparently messed up stuff happening at Circuit City on Black Fridays. Did you have Circuit Cities in your area?
Yes, absolutely.
Where service is state of the art. Remember, it used to be
where service is state of the art. Yes.
I worked so many. Oh no, poor Curtis Selby. I'm sorry. I lucked out not having to work too many Black Fridays in my life. I worked a couple, but yeah, I worked so many Black Fridays, basically ruined holidays for me. I have only just started enjoying. I'm so sorry.
Netter and I worked for Carson Peary Scott for a while at the holidays, so we had to do some of those Black Fridays, and they were miserable. But let me tell you something too. There is. And I think anyone who's ever worked in any service industry, in any retail, knows you attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And if you take out your frustrations on the customers and get snippy with them, it gets worse. I'll tell you, if you just remember, everybody's struggling right now. We're in this together. The customers tend to see the light peeking through the darkness for you, and you could have some really beautiful moments too. Just I hate to sound like an ooey gooey type here, but it's an experience that I've had that I'm just kind of alluding to.
Oh, I was at a Blockbuster, and holidays were always open days for us. Oh, because people would want to rent a movie on the holiday. Blockbuster probably treated themselves like movie theaters. I didn't think.
Oh, that's a good point. That is a good point.
I never went to one on a Christmas, but I didn't realize they were open. But that makes sense.
And there's something to remember too. And I think all the times at holidays, people like to remind people of this for good or self-righteous reasons. There are a lot of jobs that are not service industry and that are not retail that don't get days off for holidays.
Yep, I worked one of them. Newspapers have to come out every day. I had to work on Christmas Day.
Newspapers.
Got to choose. Do you want Christmas Eve or Christmas Day off? And we were trying to work around each other.
Doctors, police officers, firemen.
Yep.
You need those people every day. So they have to. But I will also say this, the people that are in those industries know a holiday is just a day. Yeah. My family can celebrate Thanksgiving the day before, the day after whatever it is.
And just do that. Yeah.
Exactly. So kind of keep that in mind. But at the same time, I am the type that when I go into a retail place that is open on a holiday or whatever, I have a tendency to go in and I'll give a gift card to the person checking me out saying, this is for you. Don't tell your boss, with a little note that says, I screwed up this year and I had to come in and buy some stuff.
Yep.
You being here today saved my holiday.
Exactly. I think that's good that you do that.
And
I remember, I will say this, whenever I would work on Christmas, I would always hear this one song on the radio called Snowfall, which was a Christmas song I'd never heard before. And it almost had a sort of melancholy feel to it. And I always kind of associated that with people who work on Christmas. I now associate that song with that. I'll have to send it to you. You can listen to it. Troy's
Darth
birthday
Plato's. That's very nice of you to say. I mean, if you're a huge Elvis fan, then a lot of people would consider it a holiday. So there you go.
Anyway, let's start speeding along. I know you've got a stream to get to later, don't you? Avatar Season 3 has been okayed. Not the James Cameron movies. The show Avatar The Last Airbender, there's a live action version on Netflix. It announced that Season 2 is officially wrapped and Season 2 will now begin shooting. Clearly, everyone involved in the series has gone full Avatar state because the cast has somehow found time to share a video from the set to celebrate the occasion. So at least they're having a good time. Who is joining the cast of Avatar Last Airbender Season 3? 2 legends have been announced as part of Season 3 cast. John Briones of The Last Voyage of the Meteor as Piandio. Excuse me. Tantu Cardinal from Dances with Wolves and Legends of the Fall as Hama. So also announced today are Season 2 newcomers that won't have to wait quite so long to meet: Terry Chen of Lucky Star, Jessica Jones and House of Cards, and Jeong Jung of Dahley de Leon, Triangles of Sadness Between the Temples, Ghostlight. All right, so if you're Avatar fans, we are getting a Season 3. Have you seen this Netflix? Has anyone seen this Netflix series? Is it faithful to the cartoon?
I have not seen it. I have absolutely zero idea, but
who does love Avatar?
What I was going to say, from what I've heard, it's better than the movie that came out, which I suppose that's not a very high bar. The person to ask would be Katie Nicolau. She is a huge Avatar The Last Airbender fan, so she would be able to tell you if this was any good or not.
We need to get Katie Nicolau into Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Maybe she might like that show as well. I don't know. I
don't
have Netflix. Well, then you're out of
luck. There are ways to see it, just saying. But if it's that important to you.
Moving on to... Sorry, I'm going to speed through some of these.
Oh my gosh.
What, you don't like that picture?
I think that's funny.
Netflix is stepping in to save Sesame Street. The streaming giant has inked a deal with Sesame Workshop for new episodes of the long-running children's show, just a month after Warner Brothers Discovery opted to not renew its output deal for the program and a strategic shift of the streaming service Max. It is a noble change from HBO deal. New episodes of Sesame Street will also run on day and date with PBS and PBS Kids app.
Yeah.
Sesame Street is available on PBS more than 50 years throughout the HBO deal. The episodes debuted on PBS months after their HBO premieres. Well, I think Netflix is actually doing the right thing for once. So
I was going to say Netflix looked and read the room because when this was put behind the paywall, a lot of people kind of
didn't like that. We brought that
up. And it kind of flies in the face of the whole reason that Sesame Street even existed. It is part and parcel of PBS. And the whole reason that PBS is hurting, they're not making the, well, one could argue that PBS has kind of hurt itself in that regard. But Not having the money to be able to do it, another company steps in, but you take it off of PBS and it loses the whole reason for its existence. Is what I'm getting at.
This is unique public-private partnership will enable Sesame Street Workshop to bring our research-based curriculum to young children around the world with Netflix global reach while ensuring children communities across the U.S. continue to have a free access on public television to Sesame Street they love, Sesame Street Workshop CEO Sherry Weston said in a statement. Okay, well,
and I do also want to point out that the classic Sesame Street does have DVD releases, so you can look into those as well.
Live action Netflix Airbender is pretty good. Okay, maybe I'll give it a look, but I should probably watch the animated series first. The cartoon is perfect as is because everything has to be remade. Robert's Infinite Realms. Anyway,
right, exactly right.
Moving on to CBS.
This was pretty big news, in my opinion, when I saw this. Yeah.
Let's see here. CBS News CEO Wendy McMahon said Tuesday that she is resigning after 4 years, the latest fallout at the network as its parent company considers settling a lawsuit with President Donald Trump over a 60 Minutes interview with his former political opponent. McMahon, who has led both the network news division and news outfit for CBS-owned stations, said in an email message to staff, "It's become clear that the company and I do not agree on the path forward. It's time to move on and for this organization to move forward with new leadership." McMahon made it clear that she opposes settling with Trump, just like 60 Minutes executive producer Bill Owens, who quit last month. Trump has sued CBS, alleging it edited an interview with 2024 Democratic opponent Kamala Harris last fall to benefit her. CBS News has denied that. CBS parent company Paramount Global is in talks to potentially settle Trump's lawsuit. At the same time, Paramount Global is seeking administration approval of a merger with Skydance Media. And let me tell you something, the longer the Skydance Media merger takes, the more Kurtzman Trek shows get announced.
Yeah, I know.
I keep hoping that once they merge, they're going to put the kibosh on some of this stuff, but I don't know.
They almost certainly will. They're going to have to tighten the reins when that happens. But there's a lot of people trying to torpedo it as much as possible, which I think is just absolutely going to destroy CBS. But this really does smack of, the what do you call it? The rats fleeing a sinking ship. And I am dropping the link to WDW Pro did a great breakdown on this. Yeah. Definitely worth checking out. I would appreciate that. In fact, go over there and check it out and leave a comment and say that the Geeky Geezers sent you.
Yes.
Just to flex a little bit.
Flex. 60 Minutes hasn't been relevant since they shoved Dr. Jeffrey Wiegand under the bus. Oh, was he someone that said something that went against the establishment? Was he basically revealing medical facts? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I know I have to be careful talking about this stuff on YouTube, though.
Yeah.
Okay. CBS News. Okay. So, yeah. But check out that WW Pro video. I don't know if there's anything left to say about this, but apparently Trump settlement Paramount procedure. Walt Disney Company decided in December to pay $15 million to end a Trump libel lawsuit against ABC News over a statement made by the network's George Stephanopoulos regarding a something case against Trump. Yikes. Okay.
What a non sequitur. It's fine, but Robert's Infinite Realm says, "Rest in peace, Peter David." When one of my favorite writers, greatest run on Hulk ever, Diddy. Okay.
And Geek Flag with Gate Nose says Skydance CEO has publicly said he's not a fan of Alex Kurtzman. I don't think whoever was
nobody's a fan of Kurtzman unless you're one of those radical, purple hairs,
I don't even know how you. For whatever reason, I keep thinking Star Trek can be fixed in ways that Star Wars and Doctor Who can't. I don't know why that is. I still think you can fix Star Trek. Maybe just say everything was in an alternate universe that was really stupid.
Yeah.
And now we're in the proper Trek timeline again. Because that was a thing they made with their whole Kelvin timeline nonsense. So
yep,
we can now disavow it, and they can. We need a groomer grown real. Chicago papers reading list full of fake likely AI generated titles.
I thought you would like this one. Yeah, this one here from here in Chicago. Let me just say real quick of the Sun Times. When I was growing up, you used to have, or those of you that are a little younger might think Fox News versus MSNBC, right? Used to be conservative versus liberal. Well, for the longest time in Chicago history, it was the Chicago Tribune and the Sun Times for your analogs for that. So much so that when we started, when our D&D group started playing we picked up the second edition. Was it the second edition? Yeah, it was the second edition rules for D&D. One of the guys called it the Sun Times rules, comparing it to the Sun Times. So a little bit of Chicago lore to add on top of this.
A print supplement to the Chicago Sun-Times published a summer reading list for 2025 Sunday, citing multiple non-existent titles by real authors, a goof that readers on social media quickly attributed to AI. Why it matters to today's AI models continue to make things up in ways that AI makers still haven't figured out how to detect or stop, and human users keep failing to check their output. Which means the editor wasn't looking at this. The very first item on the list was a novel by beloved Chilean-American author Isabella Allende titled Tidewater Dreams. Allende is real, but Tidewater Dreams is ostensibly a climate fiction novel that explores how one family confronts rising sea levels while uncovering long-buried secrets. Doesn't exist. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what, though. If I was that author, I'd be like, that's a good idea. I think I'll write that.
Oh no, because we have the science fiction element, but plus the literary human drama. You never accepted me when I came out, or that sort of. Okay. You have to read down the list of 15 titles to the 11th entry before you hit a real book. Francois Sagan's 1954 Bonjour Tristesse. See, that would have been the one I thought was fake. What they're saying, the article looks like it was part of an advertising or advertorial supplement, but the sections cover simply read Chicago Sun-Times, Heat Index, your guide to the best of summer. It's not editorial content, was not created by or approved by the Sun-Times newsroom, a Sun account on Blue Sky, posted Tuesday. What's Blue Sky? Never mind. What happened? Chicago-based freelance writer Marco Buscaglia, whose byline appears in most stories in the 64-page section, but oddly not the book story, told 404 Media that he wrote the piece using AI but failed to fact check it.
Yep.
The summer reading list appears to print opposite a house ad for the Sun-Times, exhorts readers to donate your old car and fund the news you rely on. Oh, please. If accuracy and reliability matter, you have to check pretty much everything ChatGPT and similar services say before you can use information they provide. Yeah.
I am telling you, this is.
So what happens when you don't pay people?
Well, no. This is what happens when you hire lazy people.
There's that too.
There is no excuse for this not being edited and the editor not doing his or her job. That person needs to be fired. This is is this what we're paying you for? Get out. You're fired.
I'd be surprised if this person got hired again, but we'll see.
But the other thing too, this underscores what I've been saying all along about AI is a tool. You still have to take responsibility for it. So for all the work it's saving you in maybe putting together your articles, you need more editing, not less. So every time you have this work-saving job, you create new jobs, right? We always said for all the robots that are building things in factories, you need more people to fix those and maintain those robots and to run them and program them. It's just moving the jobs around. These jobs are
okay.
It doesn't mean your job market's going away.
Maybe just write the article yourself too. There's that. That's my my idea of that.
Well, I still say, there is a place for this. Because let's face it, how much of your research has been made easier by Google? In a way, it's very much the same thing, but that does mean you have to double check it. You've got to edit it. You've got to, make sure that, for crying out loud, the book actually exists, and know your source, right? Even if you're doing a Google search and you're doing it yourself, searching out each one of these, are you referring to a book that really exists or one that is a fictional book inside of another story?
There's that too, yes. Boomer Troy and Netter has been working for the past week on a spin-off story to Firefly, and I'm Gemini AI, and I sometimes writes entire paragraphs and characters I did not create. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna have more.
I'll tell you, I've used some of these AI tools, and they're almost never something you can just take and say, okay, this is done. But oftentimes it's something to inspire. It's like you write a story. Well, that sucks, but it's got some good ideas, and then you take those ideas and use them. That's how you use a tool like that.
Yes. Speaking of something that's not related, Jim Morrison's statue found 37 years after.
Before we go on, I do want to welcome Dwayne Muth. Thank you so much for being here. And he's telling Netter, I'm impressed with your channel content. I think you have great taste, Dwayne. I like her channel content too.
Yes, Jim Morrison's statue, and she does great content. And Jim Morrison's statue has been discovered. So
yeah. So we were just watching The Doors on a members movie night. Was it last month or the month before? After the death of Val Kilmer, and that was one of the things that someone in the comments talked about was the bust that was stolen. Yep. Well, guess what? After 37 years, it has been found.
A bust of Jim Morrison made in 1981 by Croatian artist Mladen Mikulin was recovered by French authorities. The bust has been missing since 1988. Jim Morrison died at 27 in 1971 in his Paris apartment. French police have broken through the other side of a cold case. Authorities uncovered the...
Oh, God. That's terrible.
What?
Break on through to the other side. It's a Doors song.
Oh, I get it. Yes. Okay. Authorities uncovered a statue of Jim Morrison on Monday, May 19th. The artifact had been missing from the Paris cemetery where the late Doors frontman is buried since 1988. Paris public prosecutors uncovered the cultural artifact during an unrelated search. A source told agency France Presse Morrison, who died at 27 in 1971, was buried at Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris. The bust was sculpted by Croatian artist... I just said that. Placed on Morrison's grave in 1981 to honor the 10th anniversary of the singer-songwriter's mysterious death. The art installation was found by Financial and Anti-Corruption Brigade of Judicial Police Department of the Police, per CBS News. A riot broke out in 1991 on the 20th anniversary of the singer's death at the grave site, the BBC previously reported. This prompted Père Lachaise to hire additional security for the grounds. Morrison's grave is one of the most highly visited musicians' graves in the world, largely because of the rock and roll mythology of Morrison's death. His grave is located in an area of the cemetery known as the Poets' Corner, where Edith Piaf, Marcel Proust, Oscar Wilde, Gertrude Stein, and other notable artists are buried. The Doors lead singer and songwriter was later found dead at the bathtub of his Paris apartment at 27. Can you imagine a situational comedy with the ghosts of all those people hanging out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so who stole it?
I don't think the article said.
Okay, well.
And I even heard a commentary on this article where someone said it was hiding in plain sight. And I'm like, was it? If it was in someone's private residence, someone who stole it, it's not in plain sight.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on to, the last.
The final story of the night, yes. Animation.
Take me through it. You know this stuff. I don't.
I thought I knew this stuff. I don't know if I know it anymore. Animation studio Toei wants to use AI for future productions. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
If you watch anime of the shonen variety, you likely know Toei Animation. The studio is best known for adapting popular manga like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon, and it's got plenty of work coming out. When those series and films released, some may have been made with artificial intelligence. In Toei's recently published financial briefing for 2024-2025 fiscal year, one side reveals the studio's invested an undisclosed sum of money into Preferred Networks, a Japanese company with cutting-edge AI technologies. The two hope to co-develop new business opportunities and improve the efficiency and quality of our production, capitalizing on synergies between AI and animation production technologies. Toei is specifically eyeing AI usage for storyboards and productions, along with coloring and color specification backgrounds and in-betweens. Use cases cited including having the technology automatically correcting in-between for specifying and picking the correct colors and generating backgrounds from reference photos. At the time, the slide only talks about future prospects and make no mention of the technology being incorporated in the studio's current works like One Piece or the upcoming Digimon, Beat Break, and Gosu. I don't know what Gosu is. AI has been controversial to use and discussed across the larger entertainment industry. While it's often been argued to be a means of efficiency and helpful to reducing menial work, workers across different creative fields like voice acting and art feel their livelihoods have been threatened by studios' adoption of the technology and its integration into projects without artist consents. Others consider it a form of theft or digital necromancy that could add extra.
Digital necromancy. Oh my gosh! What a
I don't know
turn
what
of
that
phrase.
is, but that sounds like something out of Shadowrun. But anyway, that could add extra steps to the production process or lead to unintended errors upon release. Toei is a big company, and how it uses technology will impact everyone from other studios to the fans who watch their shows. My own personal opinion is if you can use AI to make your anime with, then you can get an AI audience to watch it. Because I'm not going to be. I'm sorry. What do you think of this? I'm done with this AI stuff, and trust me, we didn't even touch on the biggest story of the week, which I didn't know if you wanted to save that for a Friday stream or if we could talk about it another week on this show. But AI
What's
is
that one?
everywhere now, man.
Oh yeah. We definitely are going to do an AI talk on
Yes.
on
Okay.
a Friday night last call.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Because the big thing, the big Google VO thing broke, and I was having an existential crisis on Friday when I was talking to you about it. American voice actors from anime put their own jobs on for being activists when they Yeah, well, they've been terrible. Yes, I agree with you there, Geek Flag. Changing dialogue, or just being downright rude to the fans and other things. Yes, it's been terrible. But I don't know about all this AI work. This is very much against. I remember Hayao Miyazaki was horrified at the young people at Studio Ghibli wanting to create a computer program that can animate, and I was thinking, well, it's never going to happen. And then, of course, we see this. It's happening. It's happening now.
Yeah,
it's there. We're there. The future is here now, and it terrifies me and fascinates me too. I'll say that I do find it fascinating, but still kind of terrifying. But anyway, that's my own view on this. Sounds like a mixed metaphor. I don't know. I guess they can continue making One Piece into infinitum, but that's it.
that is true.
Any thoughts left? You gonna be watching anime made with AI? One of the Google VO things was an anime that they made with the VO. I'm like, oh my goodness,
Oh gosh,
it's an anime. They made it inside VO. It can do anything.
Yeah.
It could replace people talking about pop culture on a Sunday evening. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. No.
No. Hopefully not.
We're not there quite yet, but maybe up and
Jonathan Conroy makes a great point. Shadiversity did several AI videos. Yeah, he's had a lot to say about it. He's very much of the mind of the it's a tool to be used, but it can also very easily be abused.
Okay. Anyway, I know you have places to be, so let's wrap this up. At after the midnight hour tonight, you will be on.
I will be on Deleted Scenes channel for Reserved Seats.
Okay.
Specifically his 11th episode. I will be talking about my channel, what I do, and some big news regarding my channel that you might want to tune in for. If you are here on my
channel or on Netter's channel, you will be automatically forwarded on to deleted scenes. But if you are on Age of Boomers, whom, by the way, we do need to get enough subscribers and watch time to get him monetized. So let's help him out with that.
It will come. Yeah. Thank
and
you.
Once
thank you,
once we do, he will be able to forward you as well. You're going to have to forward yourself.
You should be subscribed to Deleted Scenes anyway, though, and hit that notification bell. And Geek Flag with sent a $2.
Yes, for $2. He says you guys are irresponsible. I mean, irreplaceable. Thank you so much, my friend.
Tomorrow night you're going to be doing we already mentioned this. We're going to be doing a special thing on your channel.
So members on my channel, and remember, membership on my channel for as little as $2 a month. $2. We have a weekly members only stream called Members Night at the Movies every Monday night at 8 Central. This week, in celebration of today, which is Star Wars Day, the anniversary of the release of Star Wars, we will be watching the original Star Wars, despecialized, not episode 4, not Greedo firing first and Han Solo ducking and stuff like that. No, exactly as it was released. And you'd have to go to England to watch a special viewing of it. That's the only other way you'd be able to watch it. Well, you could download it, of course. It is out there. But it's so much more fun to watch with a group of friends. So tomorrow night, Members Night at the Movies on my channel at 8 Central for the original theatrical release of Star Wars.
That's a good one.
Yep. Of course, every afternoon at noon Central, I have Liquid Lunch. Different topic every day. And by all means, you have the ability to influence what we talk about. So make sure to tune in and let me know what's on your mind. Take a break from your day in the middle of the day to have Liquid Lunch with Last Call.
It's the best lunch.
The Liquid Lunch is the best lunch. I like that. That may become the slogan for the channel.
And then Monday evening, you already mentioned that. And then Tuesday
will everybody who's here on the panel right now will be over on Deleted Scenes channel for Live from Sparkwood and 21 at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, talking David Lynch, Twin Peaks, and trying to make heads or tails out of some pretty mind-bending writing on David Lynch's part.
Excellent.
Followed by the next episode of Blake 7 over on my channel. I am doing a show where I stream an episode of Blake 7 because a lot of American audiences don't even know what that is. And we are in the midst of season 3. So that will be Tuesday night. Wednesday night, surprisingly, it looks like I am going to be, I've got to iron out the details, but it looks like I'm being invited to do a guest spot on Pop Culture Minefield.
Oh, excellent.
So tune into that on Wednesday. I'm going to make a phone call as soon as we end here to kind of square that away. So that will be Wednesday night. Thursday night over on Netter's Network, 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
Right now, I don't have a guest. So if you are looking to get more traffic to your channel, more subscribers, get people interested in what you have to say, or you're just really excited about a particular subject, can be anything, and you want to tell more people about it, DM me on Twitter. Let's get you on. So right now on Thursday, I'll probably be interviewing Troy on his new.
I was just gonna say,
new channel, new stream.
If you would like to have me on Thursday, I will. I would be happy to be your guest on Thursday.
I always want to have you on. You're my favorite.
Thank you so much.
I'm just a little biased there.
Followed, of course, by Deleted Scenes with his coming attractions right after Netter's Network.
Friday night. Have we set a topic for Friday night, Boomer?
Not unless you want to do the discussion about the recent AI VO thing, but we don't have to.
Let's go ahead and make that happen. Sure, why not? We're going to be talking AI.
And maybe you can talk me out of my existential crisis with this.
Or maybe I'll make it worse. I don't know.
It's like a living nightmare for me. But anyway, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
And you know what? Let's cut it off there. That is then of course the weekend. But you know what? Tune into all of this stuff, and you'll find out what's going on the week.
Sounds good. Y'all have a good night. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lady Mist, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.